Chapter 2063. The mountain range was like spring all year round, and there were a lot of spirit herbs. Many of them were more than 10,000 years old and were very suitable for pseudo-sector lord-level experts. Yi Qinghan didn't stand on ceremony. He mobilized his star-twining vine and other god pets and took away all the spirit herbs that were more than 10,000 years old. Fan Yin and the rest were stunned. "Why are you so poor? We didn't come to Pan Long Mountain for these ordinary spirit herbs." Fan Yin scolded in disdain. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and retorted, "You guys don't know how expensive the daily necessities are. I'm not like you guys, the true disciples of saints. I have so many children waiting to be fed. The spirit herbs that you guys don't care about are treasures to me." The son of battle and the rest shook their heads. Yi Qinghan was such a calculative sect master. They were really lucky. But luckily, the star-twining vine had tens of thousands of vines. Its speed of grabbing spirit herbs was much faster than all of them combined. With the god bird's help, it was like a wild goose plucking feathers. The Pan Long Mountain that was plundered by Yi Qinghan probably wouldn't recover its vitality in less than 10,000 years. Boom! Just as the four of them and their spirit pets were moving forward, a huge flying beast swooped down from the sky. Its sharp claws tore apart the mountain rocks and clawed at the four of them. It was so strong that it even uprooted an ancient tree. The mountain rocks were like rotten tofu and were directly cut into pieces. Scram! Yi Qinghan didn't hold back and waved his sword madly. It was like a rainbow that wanted to defy the heavens. It directly slammed into the beast's claws. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere and dyed half the mountain red. Screech! The beast screamed. Its claws were almost cut open by Yi Qinghan. It flew up into the sky pathetically. Its screams resounded through the valley and reverberated thousands of miles away. Fan Yin and the rest could only shrug at Yi Qinghan's savagery. With him around, as long as they didn't meet any saint-level beasts, there wouldn't be any trouble. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were both wearing Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robes. They stood to the left and right of the two. Zhang Yingshi was still in front, ready to attack or retreat. The son of war was in the center, observing the direction and vigilant of his surroundings. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Pa pa pa. The star-twining vine was galloping around the coiling dragon island. This was its world. It devoured the powerful beasts to its heart's content. Some beasts that were dozens of feet tall couldn't withstand the entanglement of dozens of vines and were devoured alive. However, as long as the divine bird asked for the spirit herbs, the star-twining vine was very tactful and didn't devour them. The divine bird temporarily forgot about the danger. It looked at the stalks of top-notch divine medicine and grinned evilly. Even the little divine bird and the little miser were mocking it with disdain. After traveling for a few days, nothing particularly dangerous happened. The divine bird smiled smugly and said, "It seems that the people of this world are just bragging to scare people. How can there be any danger here? This divine bird can sweep through everything. In the future, I'll set up camp here and make it my headquarters. I'll build a new holy land." Fan Yin, the son of war, and Zhang Yingshi shook their heads. There was no danger now, but it didn't mean there wouldn't be danger later. Yi Qinghan was still vigilant. He wouldn't be fooled by the safety in front of him. Since this place could make a saint disappear without a trace, there had to be a big problem. The yin-yang light of the Taoist robes wandered inside, and the aura was faintly discernible. The heavy berserk blade in his hand intertwined with the dark light, and the aura was extremely terrifying. As the four of them walked, they suddenly realized that there was something wrong with their vision. The world was no longer colorful, the trees were no longer green, and the mountains and rivers were no longer transparent. Instead, they had become pure blue. The water was blue, the sky was blue, and even the clouds were blue. All living things, including the four of them and their spiritual pets, had become blue. They were all blue. The blue was so enchanting, so blue that it was intoxicating. It was simply indescribably beautiful. What a beautiful world. It's so beautiful. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi were women after all. They didn't have any resistance to this kind of top-notch world. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War bristled. They rubbed their eyes and realized that this wasn't an illusion. This was the world in their eyes. We just came in. Take 2 steps back and try. Yi Qinghan immediately said warily. Hua. Yi Qinghan took 10 steps back and realized that everything was still blue. It hadn't changed. The world in their eyes was so beautiful that they didn't want to go back. They were so happy that they didn't want to go back. Wake up. We must have entered an illusion. Yi Qinghan reminded them in a deep voice. Fan Yin said disdainfully, you're not vigilant when you should be vigilant, and you're spouting nonsense when you shouldn't be. How can such a beautiful place be an illusion? Zhang Yingshi said with certainty, this is not an illusion. It can't be an illusion. I'm a top-notch upper plane cultivator. Even if it's an illusion set up by an ordinary saint, I can still sense it. This place is completely natural. It should be a natural saint realm. Some kind of creature must have affected the surrounding environment, causing everything to be blue. Yi Qinghan shrugged and looked around warily. Finally, he looked at the divine bird and asked softly, did you find anything? I just took 10 steps back and didn't enter the normal line of sight. That's why I'm certain that this is an illusion. The divine bird looked around but didn't find anything special. It only realized that its perception had decreased greatly. It couldn't even sense the spiritual herbs at all. Its privileges had disappeared. Damn it. This place makes my hair stand on end. Let's get out of here. The divine bird whispered. Yi Qinghan gently raised frenzy and used his nomological laws. He realized that his strength had been suppressed by 70 to 80%. He only had 20% of his strength left. Not good. This isn't an illusion. It's someone else's domain. My combat strength has been suppressed by more than half. Yi Qinghan immediately warned. Only then did Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin wake up. They used their divine power and realized that their strength had been suppressed by more than half. Their expressions changed as they exclaimed, oh no, we've really entered another creature's domain. Let's get out of here quickly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said in a deep voice, it's too late. I just took 10 steps back and realized that everything is still blue. I suspect that as long as it's blue, it's a domain. In someone else's domain, our actions will be severely restricted. What's controlling the domain? Find it. Fan Yin immediately looked around and realized that everything was blue. It was almost impossible to find the creature controlling the domain. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like the scorching sun as he scanned his surroundings. He wanted to see through the origin and find the creature controlling the blue domain. However, most of the creatures in the domain were like wooden chickens. They didn't have any spirituality and couldn't be the creature controlling the domain. At that moment, the weather changed. A strong wind blew and covered the four's eyes. When they opened their eyes again, there was another person in the domain. 5 people. However, there was one more Zhang Yingshi. There were 2 Zhang Yingshi. The 2 Zhang Yingshi had the same expression as they stared at each other in shock. Then, they pointed at each other and shouted, she's a fake. Yi Qinghan and company were enraged. They took several steps back and distanced themselves from the 2 Zhang Yingshi. From the outside, it was impossible to tell the difference between the two. Chapter 2064. The 5 of them split into 3 groups. They kept their distance from each other and drew their swords vigilantly. The 2 Zhang Yingshi gripped the hilts of their divine swords and stared coldly at each other. They asked in unison, what are you trying to do? Why are you impersonating me? Yi Qinghan and the others were shocked. They said in unison, "What kind of skill is this? It's a godly disguise. Holy shit, if this divine bird can learn this skill, won't I be invincible?" The divine bird was ecstatic. It wanted nothing more than to devour the monster that controlled the domain and copy its ability. Yi Qinghan frowned. At this point it was already good enough that it could identify Zhang Yingshi, let alone devour the monster. "Dojo Master Zhang, when did we meet?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. "Great Buddha City." The two Zhang Yingshi replied in unison without the slightest delay. "Yi Qinghan, believe me, I really am Zhang Yingshi." The two spoke again. Before Yi Qinghan and the others could react, the two drew their swords at the same time. They used the same sword style and attacked in the same way. Their movements were in sync. They were the same person. It's able to sense our thoughts and even copy our strength within the domain. If this goes on, we won't be able to distinguish the real from the fake. It's Zhang Yingshi now. Fan Yin immediately understood. Once such an existence entered its domain, it would be invincible. Even though the four of them had high statuses and powerful cultivations, they were still helpless against a creature they had never seen before. The divine bird's shifty eyes flashed. It wanted to devour the monster's skill, but it didn't think to identify the real Zhang Yingshi. The little divine bird and the divine bird were cut from the same cloth. They were indeed father and son. Their wretched appearances were carved from the same mold. Is there a way to identify them? The monster definitely has a demonic aura. Zhang Yingshi is a human, so it's impossible for there to be no difference at all, Yi Qinghan asked softly. The divine bird shook its head and replied, "The smell and aura on their bodies are the same. There's no difference. Don't think about identifying them from the outside. You have to look at their essence." Essence. Understand? Yi Qinghan frowned as he recalled the words of the divine bird. He muttered to himself, "Essence, what is essence?" Feelings. The feelings that we have with Zhang Yingshi are something that the demons don't have. A glint flashed across Yi Qinghan's eyes as he gripped Frenzy tightly. His face was expressionless, and his mind seemed to have stopped working. Even his soul seemed to have stopped working. Raising his saber, Yi Qinghan swung it towards the real Zhang Yingshi without holding back at all. His aura was terrifying, and his killing intent was thick. If this saber were to land, even the real Zhang Yingshi would die. Yi Qinghan couldn't tell which one was the real Zhang Yingshi, so he could only attack one at random. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, it was already right before one of Zhang Yingshi. The attacked Zhang Yingshi gripped her divine sword tightly, but she did not resist. Just as the saber gleam tore through her defensive stellar energy, the saber gleam abruptly turned, blowing her black hair into the air as it swept past her body and slashed towards the other Zhang Yingshi. Die! Boom! This time, Yi Qinghan did not hold back at all. He went straight for the other Zhang Yingshi's head. The violent saber chi wreaked havoc, and rocks flew everywhere. That Zhang Yingshi's expression changed. His figure flashed and disappeared into nothingness, fusing with the blue light as if he had become one with the heavens and earth. Humph! No matter how good your disguise is, it's impossible for you to trust us, Yi Qinghan said coldly. The four of them immediately stood back to back, looking around vigilantly. The demon had disappeared. This guy is in the domain. Let's kill all the creatures in the domain. I don't believe that he won't come out, the divine bird said smugly. Whoosh! Whoosh! A gust of wind rose again, and the group lost their sense of direction. The divine bird on Yi Qinghan's shoulder was thrown off. Whoosh! A blue light flashed, and two divine birds appeared behind the four of them. They looked exactly the same. The two divine birds looked at each other, then retreated and shouted, "Fuck, you dare to disguise yourself on this divine bird's head?" This expression, this action, they were exactly like twins. There was no difference at all. The little money grubber and the little divine bird were dumbfounded. Even they could not tell their husband and father apart. Idiot, those who dare to offend me never have a good ending. The two divine birds cursed each other. Suddenly, one of the divine birds did not play by the rules. He spread his legs, revealing his male organ, and kept thrusting it. He shouted, "I'm shameless, but you're shameless too. Learn from me. Learn from me. I dare to take off my clothes, I dare to pluck out my feathers. Come on. Come on." The divine bird looked at the other divine bird with disdain, laughing in an especially vulgar manner. The other divine bird was completely dumbfounded. It only now realized that there were still some things that it could not learn or replicate, such as this shameless and masochistic behavior. Whoosh! At this moment, although the four experts were dumbfounded for a moment, they quickly joined forces to imprison the dumbfounded divine bird on the spot. Evildoer! Show yourself! Yi Qinghan mobilized the flames, forming a sky-covering giant hand that enveloped the demon. Blue demonic flame. It was also blue in color, but this blue flame was not under the demon's control. It enveloped it, making it unable to control, evolve, or replicate it. Screech. The demon shrieked and roared in anger. It seemed that it was very afraid of the blue demonic flame. Whoosh! The demon transformed into a beautiful blue lotus demonic flower. It was so beautiful that one would be mesmerized by it at first glance. Its beauty was like the work of the gods. It could not be replicated. It was too beautiful. Yi Qinghan had never seen such a beautiful flower. Even though it was struggling in the flames, it did not lose its elegance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the blue lotus demonic flame by the neck. He realized that the blue lotus demonic flower had already become a spirit. It could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and control the domain. It could use the blue color of the domain. However, it was afraid of flames because it was a water-type plant. Even if it transformed into a demon, it was still afraid of the blue demonic flame. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan knew how to use the blue demonic flame. If it were any other color of sacred flame, the blue lotus demonic flower would still be able to change its color and use it. The blue lotus demonic flower transformed into a human figure. It kept kowtowing and begging for mercy, hoping that Yi Qinghan would let it go. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the blue lotus demonic flower. He did not understand how it could control the domain and turn all living things within it blue. He also did not understand how it could sense the souls and thoughts of living things. Say, if I eat this blue lotus demonic flower, will I be able to control the domain and turn everything blue for my use? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Fan Yin shook his head and said uncertainly, I don't know. This creature should be newly born. I have never heard of it before. Master, I'm willing to be your lackey. Let me eat a part of it first. If it's poisonous, then poison me to death first. Who asked me to be so loyal? I'm willing to go through water and tread on fire for master. I won't hesitate even if I have to die 1,000 times. The divine bird said wretchedly. Yi Qinghan sneered. He looked at the blue lotus demonic flower in his hand begging for mercy. The murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. He wanted to learn its skills. Chapter 2065. Yi Qinghan was not one to go easy on women. He stared at the blue lotus demonic flower carefully, trying to figure out how to devour this ability. Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the Son of War had never heard of such a demonic creature before. They circled the demonic flower and looked at it again and again. If you eat its essence, you should be able to control the domain. The divine bird was drooling as it stared at the blue lotus demonic flower. What if you can't? That would be a pity, Yi Qinghan said cautiously. Then give me a petal. I'll try it and test the waters for you, the divine bird said flatteringly. No. I beg you, spare me. I won't dare to do it again. The blue lotus demonic flower swayed and sent out a soul fluctuation that reverberated in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose, pondered for a moment, and then coldly said, "Give me your source energy first, and I'll let you take human form to talk to me. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to eat your body and source energy." The blue lotus demonic flower trembled and its blue lotus turned pale. It immediately spat out its essence. It was the blue lotus core. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took the blue lotus core. He stared coldly at the blue lotus demonic flower and watched it take human form. The surrounding blue light disappeared, and a beautiful demonic spirit in a blue dress appeared. Her seductiveness far exceeded that of Fanning and Zhang Yingshi. Gulp, the son of war and Yi Qinghan swallowed their saliva at the same time. Their eyes were fixed on this demonic spirit. However, the little demonic spirit immediately knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and begged pitifully, "Esteemed one, I didn't mean to offend you. Please spare me. Don't even think about sparing you. Tell me honestly, how can I control your domain? If you tell me, I might not kill you." Yi Qinghan awkwardly hid his expression and pretended to be cold as he spoke. Blue Lotus Fei panicked. She racked her brains, but she couldn't think of a way to make Yi Qinghan learn the domain. There were only two ways to use such a domain. One was to devour the Blue Lotus origin, and the other was to make her recognize Yi Qinghan as her master. However, she was unwilling to do either. "I'll give you an incense stick's worth of time to consider and then reply to me. If I don't get an answer in an incense stick's worth of time, I'll eat your origin flower core and completely refine it," Yi Qinghan said resolutely. No, the Blue Lotus fairy kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan had even devoured the chaos state for the sake of strength. How could a demonic flower take form? So what if she was a beauty? The son of war, Zhang Yingshi, and Fanning looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. They thought he would take this opportunity to subdue the demonic flower and make her his slave. They never imagined that he wouldn't be moved by her beauty at all. The Blue Lotus fairy could be said to be an outstanding beauty. Her face was absolutely perfect, sparkling and translucent. She was a monster born from devouring the essence of the sun and moon, as well as the spiritual energy of the world. She was not something humans could compare with. Humans always had some flaws, but the face and figure of this fae were nearly perfect. Yi Qinghan held the Blue Lotus origin flower core. He wanted to use his divine sense to probe and comprehend her domain. However, his divine sense couldn't penetrate the origin flower core, so he couldn't comprehend her domain. An incense stick's worth of time quickly passed. Yi Qinghan slowly tightened his grip on the Blue Lotus origin flower core. His right hand grabbed the beauty's neck as he lightly said, "It looks like you don't cherish your life. Don't. I'll talk. As long as I acknowledge you as my master, you can comprehend my domain. Furthermore, you can control and use my origin. Even if you devour my origin and comprehend my domain, you won't be able to use it. Please spare me." The Blue Lotus demonic flower begged for mercy in fear. After Yi Qinghan heard this, he bit the tip of his finger. A drop of essence blood seeped out and imprinted it on the Blue Lotus fairy's forehead. He formed a seal with both hands and transformed it into a slave imprint. He forcefully subdued this fae. Whoosh! The Blue Lotus fairy involuntarily transformed back into her original form. Then, she transformed into a Blue Lotus imprint and imprinted it on Yi Qinghan's forehead. The imprint was vivid and didn't dissipate. It was very eye-catching. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and tried to comprehend the Blue Lotus fairy's domain technique. After a long time, Yi Qinghan slowly opened his eyes. The Blue Lotus imprint on his forehead was even more soul-stirring. It was so blue that it made one's heart flutter. Whoosh! In an instant, the entire world was shrouded in blue. Everyone, including the son of war, was bathed in the blue light. It was as though they had turned into blue people. Even their eyes had turned blue. Whoosh, whoosh. Within the domain, Yi Qinghan's thoughts moved. A strong wind blew, and a blue light blocked everyone's vision. Then, everyone's positions changed. When it stopped, Yi Qinghan disappeared. However, two Son of War appeared. The two Son of War had the same expression. They were both shocked. At least, Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi couldn't tell which one was the real Son of War and which one was Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! The Son of War pulled out a scimitar and used the Zhan family's Aries blade technique to complement Yi Qinghan's cultivation. However, what happened next made his hair stand on end. The Son of War that Yi Qinghan had transformed into was also holding a scimitar. The scimitar was exactly the same as the Son of War's, and it emitted a blue glow. The saber technique he used was exactly the same as the Son of War's. "You've cultivated the Aries blade technique," the Son of War asked in shock. Yi Qinghan didn't speak like the Son of War. Instead, he transformed back into his original body and smiled. "No. In the blue domain, I can clearly sense your thoughts and your martial arts. I can even say that I am you. Everything that you control, I can copy it. However, when the domain disappears, this part of your understanding will automatically disappear." "Damn, this is a sick skill." The Son of War and the others exclaimed in shock. Only the divine bird was unhappy. It said in disdain, "Why don't you let me eat its origin? It's a waste for you to use this skill. You can't copy a sage's soul. You don't need to copy a being below a sage. This skill is useless to you." The divine bird was right. This skill might seem overpowered, but it was of little value to Yi Qinghan. Fan Yin, the Son of War, and Zhang Yingshi all nodded in agreement. With Yi Qinghan's current combat strength, he really didn't need this useless domain to deal with others, unless he was surrounded. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly. "There's nothing to be afraid of when you have more skills. It's still a skill, and it's very useful. If I encounter Xia Jiulong and his subordinates one day, I might be able to make them kill each other." Seeing Yi Qinghan's devilish smile, the Son of War, Fan Yin, and Zhang Yingshi couldn't help but tremble. Don't show off this kind of insignificant skill in front of a sage. Be careful that your cleverness backfires and you get beaten to death, Fan Yin reminded. Yi Qinghan shrugged and calmly replied, "I understand. Let's continue going deeper." With that, the four of them continued to search for treasures, encircle powerful beasts, steal their demon cores, and devour their blood essence. At this time, Xia Jiulong had brought over 100 experts from behind. However, their direction was slightly off, so they didn't find Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan also didn't discover them. Chapter 2066. Xia Jiulong's direction was slightly off course because he trusted the Blood Strike Guard's information too much. Xian Xiu frowned as he looked deeper into the forest. He realized that the group was heading east, while Yi Qinghan's group was heading straight up. He reminded Xia Jiulong, "Your Highness, are we going the wrong way?" Xia Jiulong said confidently, "I've seen the map of Coiling Dragon Island. The eastern side is a plain that's suitable for traveling. Furthermore, I suspect that Yi Qinghan's group's route is just a smokescreen. Since they want to go to the secret realm, why don't they go through the plains? That's why I think they're going through the plains. Even if they're really going through the mountain range, we can use the plains to overtake them and stop them." No one dared to doubt Xia Jiulong's decision. Xian Xiu didn't waste any more time and led a large group of experts to the plains. This group of people were all in the upper realm, so they were obviously much faster than Yi Qinghan's group. The distance between the two sides was getting closer and closer. The secluded mountain range stretched on endlessly. Tall mountains towered into the clouds. Every mountain that stretched on endlessly had a huge and terrifying monster within it. Screech. Roar. Angry roars shook the mountains. They stood at the top of the mountain and looked down. Their eyes were extremely terrifying. Some of these creatures were clearly wild beasts like wolves and tigers, but when they mutated into demonic beasts, they were even more terrifying than humans of the same level. The demonic beasts had terrifying auras, and their mouths were filled with sinister fangs. Under the moonlight, they looked even more sinister. Whoosh! A bird flew across the sky in search of food. Its red eyes weren't affected by the night at all. The four of them carefully avoided the sight of the demonic beasts and birds. They walked along the ancient trees and mountain rocks. There was no benefit in fighting these useless creatures. There didn't seem to be any special sacred medicines in the periphery, and there weren't many powerful beasts either. The four of them constantly changed directions, avoiding the demonic beasts and searching for spiritual medicines. About half a month later, the four of them entered an especially lush forest. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and their roots were intertwined. Even the exposed roots were several meters thick. Vines hung down from the branches, and the huge bird's nest was as big as a palace, blocking out the setting sun. Although the forest extended in all directions, it was very dark, especially when it was dark. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Even the starlight in the sky was covered. At night, the dense dark element covered the entire forest. Not to mention the path, the four of them could not even see each other. Their divine sense was also not very good. If they were not careful, they would knock into trees. We can't do it at night. Let's rest, Fan Yin said faintly. No one objected. Yi Qinghan also wanted to rest for a while and properly comprehend the Blue Lotus domain. Just as he was about to look for a tree hole to rest in, he coincidentally bumped into a green vine. He climbed up the vine and saw that the stars were shining brightly in the sky. When he looked around, he saw that there was actually a huge bird's nest beside him. It looked like a palace. Half of the roof was sealed, just like a room. The door was 10 meters wide and 20 meters high. The other half was open air. There were no birds in the nest, not even an egg. Yi Qinghan stepped into the nest and felt a faintly discernible aura of a holy beast. However, it was too weak. He guessed that the bird had already left. Such a big nest. What kind of bird made it? The divine bird curiously looked at the big nest. It spanned across several ancient trees and was as big as a football field. The bird that lived here must not be small. No matter what it was, it didn't come back so quickly. It can't be so coincidental that it will come back tonight. Let's rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow morning, Yi Qinghan said faintly. Fan Yin also flew up the vine and looked under the moonlight. She shrugged and walked along a branch to another ancient tree. She was not willing to stay in the bird's nest. You guys don't want to come together? Yi Qinghan asked. Forget it. We won't squeeze with you. If the bird comes back, at least we won't be wiped out, Zhang Yingshi mocked. The son of battle also did not want to occupy the bird's nest. He stayed away from Yi Qinghan's position. Yi Qinghan did not stand on ceremony. He lay in the center with his four limbs facing the sky. He looked up at the sky and thought about how to make the Blue Lotus domain stronger. He even thought about how to preserve the copied ability forever. Perhaps he could activate his own domain without using the Blue Lotus and increase his combat strength to the maximum. Time passed slowly. Yi Qinghan slowly closed his eyes. His tired soul gradually relaxed. His aura was restrained, and he was like a weed that merged with the grass nest. As dawn approached, the starry sky was no longer shining. The stars and the moon were hidden, and it was pitch black. A black shadow quietly descended from the sky without any sound or aura. It slowly landed on the bird's nest and pressed down on Yi Qinghan with its wings. The smell of blood woke Yi Qinghan up. He hurriedly opened his eyes and realized that his body was covered in white feathers. However, blood was flowing everywhere and quickly dyed the feathers red. Yi Qinghan did not dare to move. He was unsure of the bird's level and was afraid of angering it. A powerful aura spread out. One could imagine how powerful this bird was. It was at least a peak upper-level bird. Hiss, hiss. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and wanted to move his body. However, he was pressed down by the bird. The slightest movement would wake the bird up. Damn! It can't be so coincidental. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Just as he was thinking, blood from the bird's wound seeped onto his body. It flowed past his forehead and covered his face. The aura caused a burning pain to appear on his face. He had the golden body of a saint. Ordinary weapons could not break through his physical defenses. This bird's aura was enough to injure him. He was almost certain that this bird's strength was terrifying. If it was not at the level of a saint, it was only second to a saint. Why are you so unlucky? The divine bird wailed and slowly crawled out of the nest. Let the three of them attract the bird's attention from the outside. Lure it away first so that I can escape. Yi Qinghan secretly transmitted his voice. At this time, Zhang Yingshi, Fan Yin, and the Son of War had already felt a powerful aura enveloping the nest. At this time, they were all lying in the distance, using tree trunks to block their vision and secretly peeping at the nest. Fan Yin's string appeared in his hand. However, he did not dare to release the Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe because he did not want to alarm the bird. It's the Qing Di Luan. It's a sacred beast second only to a saint. Its strength can defeat the four of us together. The Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe's protection is useless. Fan Yin thought to himself. He recalled that the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage had told him about the strongest sacred beasts in the world. The Qing Di Luan was one of them. The feathers of the Blue Emperor Luan were blue, so blue that they looked a little white. At night, they looked white. Its wings were long and narrow. The feathers of this Blue Emperor Luan were as white as snow at night. Obviously, it was an adult sacred beast. Its strength was not much weaker than an eternal saint. It could easily defeat an old master like Zhang Yingshi. Zhang Yingshi's face suddenly changed. He hoped that Yi Qinghan would not act rashly and let the Qing Di Luan leave first. Perhaps he could escape with his life. At this time, the divine bird escaped from the nest. However, the Qing Di Luan was a powerful creature. It only treated the divine bird as an ordinary bird and let it go. Long after the divine bird left, Yi Qinghan did not see the three masters lure the Qing Di Luan away. The world was still silent. He could not help but break out in cold sweat. Chapter 2067. Yi Qinghan was going crazy. He didn't dare to move. He only hoped that the Azure Emperor Luan would move a little and give him a chance to escape. The Azure Emperor Luan had a long beak and a green crown on its head. Its wings had yet to spread, and there was a hint of white in the green. It was very beautiful. Its body was about 4 or 5 meters long and 2 meters wide. One of its wings was torn, and golden blood was still flowing out. It took a long time for the wound to heal. Yi Qinghan tried to lick the golden blood. Suddenly, it was as if his body had exploded. The terrifying golden blood flowed along the tip of his tongue, making his blood boil. He didn't expect the Azure Emperor Luan's blood to be precious blood. At this time, Yi Qinghan was no longer idle. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of essence blood, and the essence blood in his body completely exploded. Every cell in his body was stimulated. He suddenly lost control of his aura and emitted a terrifying pressure, which immediately awakened the Azure Emperor Luan. Screeched. The Azure Emperor Luan was shocked. It spread its wings and rushed into the sky. After rushing into the sky, it looked down at the nest and found Yi Qinghan. Its eyes bloomed with green light. With a flap of its wings, the green light swooped down on the ground. It was enough to destroy the world. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan activated the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe and ran away. But the green light behind him was too destructive. The nest was shattered, the ground sank, and half of the mountain range was razed to the ground. Even with the protection of the Taoist robe, he was still hit by the powerful impact. His blood and qi were in turmoil, and he spat out a mouthful of essence blood. It's the Azure Emperor Yuan. At the peak of its cultivation, it is an eternal saint. Run! Fan Yin said and turned to run. He didn't care about Yi Qinghan anymore. The son of war and Zhang Yingshi didn't dare to join in. They fled in different directions, not daring to stay for a moment. Yi Qinghan's face was pale. He still wanted to run, but the Azure Emperor Yuan appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. It looked down at Yi Qinghan, and he was so scared that his hands and feet trembled. He didn't even dare to show his true strength. Supreme Holy Beast. I didn't mean to disturb you. You are so powerful, you must have wisdom. We can talk, maybe I can help you. Yi Qinghan did not dare to fight back. He could only beg for forgiveness, hoping that the Blue Emperor Yuan would be wise enough not to stoop to his level. Humans again. Greedy humans. How many years has it been since you last appeared here? How dare you come to my lair today? Are you trying to bully me because I'm weak? The Blue Emperor Yuan spoke in human language. Its voice was clear and melodious, but there was no doubt that its voice was filled with killing intent and disgust. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and raised his hands high, admitting defeat. Sacred beast, you misunderstood. I thought that this lair was ownerless. You see, I mean you no harm. Otherwise, I would have taken the opportunity to attack you just now. Ant. Even if you attack me, what can you do to me? The Blue Emperor Yuan gently flapped its wings, and a green light shot into the sky, tearing the darkness apart. Yi Qinghan's scalp went numb. This thing was too powerful. It was so powerful that he couldn't even use his domain. At this moment, his mind raced, and his eyes flashed. He quickly said, Supreme Holy Beast, I have a way to heal your wounds. I can at least increase your recovery speed by 10 times. As long as you spare me, I will immediately refine a sacred pill to suppress your wounds. Humans are not to be trusted. Go to hell. There was no emotion in the Blue Emperor Yuan's eyes. There was only disgust and disdain. Once the killing intent was released, its injured wings flapped again. Yi Qinghan's face felt like there were tens of thousands of insects crawling on it. His entire body was cold. If the Blue Emperor Yuan attacked again, even with the protection of the Yin and Yang Bagua Taoist robe, he would still be severely injured. At this moment, the divine bird rushed over and shouted, Great Lord Blue Emperor Yuan. Please don't attack. The divine bird didn't dare to escape. If Yi Qinghan died, it would definitely die. The current Yi Qinghan was not someone that it could cancel the contract with just because it wanted to. Therefore, it could only risk its life to protect him. The Blue Emperor Yuan looked at the ant-like divine bird and Yi Qinghan. The green light from its wings became even more frightening. Great Lord Blue Emperor Yuan. You are benevolent and beautiful. You are the emperor of all birds. Please restrain your anger and allow this lowly bird to speak. The divine bird trembled. Facing the Blue Emperor Yuan was like facing an eternal saint. It dared to quibble, but it didn't dare to blaspheme. Speak. The Blue Emperor Yuan's voice was crisp and clear, like the sound of nature. Its posture was high and mighty, like a mother model of the world. Perhaps because the divine bird was also a bird, and a highly intelligent one at that, the Blue Emperor Yuan gave it a chance to speak. The divine bird's eyes flashed. It prostrated itself on the ground and respectfully said, Great Lord Blue Emperor Wan, you are the mother of all birds. Your position is comparable to the divine phoenix. Your child would never lie to you. My boss is a good person. You are injured, and you must need sacred medicine to heal. Please give your child a chance to show filial piety to you. My boss is an expert in alchemy. He would never harm you. He will make your injuries as good as new, and can even help you defeat a strong opponent. The Blue Emperor Wan looked at Yi Qinghan and the divine bird with disdain. Its enemy was so powerful that even it was injured. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird were like ants in front of it. How could they fight against the enemy? I don't need you to do anything. I have never trusted humans. Little parrot, stay away from him. I want to kill him. The Blue Emperor Wan firmly rejected the divine bird's suggestion. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end as he retreated. He made a grabbing motion and the berserk appeared in his hand. The eternal sacred artifact's aura slowly seeped out. Great Lord Blue Emperor Wan, you are indeed powerful. But it is not like I have no way to fight back. If I had been hostile to you, would your body have been able to withstand the eternal sacred artifact's attack? Yi Qinghan argued strongly and said in a deep voice, you hate humans, but there are good and bad people among them. Just like the beasts, they can't all be the same. Why can't you give us a chance? Yes. Lord Blue Emperor Wan, you are still injured. There is really no need to fight to the death with him. Let's have a good talk. Perhaps there will be a turn for the better. The divine bird flattered. The Blue Emperor Wan was not ignorant. It looked at Yi Qinghan's yin-yang Taoist robe and berserk. It could also see the seal on them. Once the seal was undone, it could instantly kill it. So it hesitated. The Blue Emperor Wan was silent for a moment. Then, a terrifying light shot out from its eyes. It said coldly, human, leave my domain. If you dare to come and offend me again, I will definitely kill you. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and quickly retreated with the divine bird. He did not dare to blaspheme in the slightest. At this time, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the son of battle had already escaped far enough. They stood in the distance and looked at Yi Qinghan. They were shocked to find that the Blue Emperor Wan did not attack Yi Qinghan. This bastard can actually communicate with the Blue Emperor Wan. Zhang Yingshi took a deep breath and said in disbelief. The Blue Emperor Wan did not kill him. Holy shit, this bastard can't be a beast man, right? Fan Yin and the son of battle were shocked. The Blue Emperor Wan's strength and hatred for humans were only known to the upper echelons of the Holy Land. This sacred beast would kill any human it saw. There was no room for negotiation. Actually, what they did not know was that the Blue Emperor Wan was already injured. It did not dare to take the risk to kill Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan left the forest and ran wildly. Occasionally, he would soar into the sky to look for the three bastards. He cursed, these three bastards are even more disloyal than you. Boss, you're insulting me. You're comparing me with three treacherous scumbags. I risked my life to save you. The divine bird said, feeling wronged. Yi Qinghan, whooshed. Yi Qinghan ran as fast as lightning. 2 hours later, he met up with the three experts. Both sides were staring with wide eyes. The three of you better remember this. The next time you encounter danger, don't blame me for running away first. Yi Qinghan snorted. Chapter 2068. Zhang Yingshi and the others pretended not to see Yi Qinghan's exasperation. Fan Yin, on the other hand, reprimanded Yi Qinghan. If we stayed there to help you, we would have angered the Azure Emperor Wan. Do you know how powerful the Azure Emperor Wan is? Once it gets angry, it can raise everything within 1,000 miles to the ground. The four of us aren't even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. That's right. The Azure Emperor Wan is the king of all birds. Don't underestimate it just because it's a few feet long. Its strength is second only to the eternal saints. You're just an ant in front of it, so it doesn't want to attack. If we rush over, we'll be like several ants. If we anger it, we'll all die. You don't understand, so we won't argue with you. Zhang Yingshi also quibbled. The son of war coughed dryly. He didn't want to quibble, so he shrugged and said truthfully, that thing isn't something we can fight against. Next time, if I encounter such a ferocious creature, I'll just run. But to be honest, Brother Yi, the Azure Emperor one you encountered is considered a docile creature. If it were any other ferocious creature, not even your bones would be left. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He didn't want to argue with the three of them who had a deep foundation and were familiar with all kinds of strange creatures. So he could only lead the divine bird forward angrily. As far as the eye could see, ancient ferocious beasts covered the sky. Occasionally, they would soar into the sky from the ravines. Their angry roars reverberated between heaven and earth. A few days later, Yi Qinghan stood on top of a mountain and surveyed his surroundings. Spiritual qi pervaded the air, forming a thick white fog. This island range was boundless. The deep and vigorous mountainous area was thick and majestic. Spiritual herbs were everywhere, but there were no celestial herbs. However, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the others weren't in a hurry. They knew how precious immortal herbs and immortal materials were. If they were so easy to find, they wouldn't have had a chance. The four of them continued to move forward. On both sides of the steep mountain path, they gradually found some eerie white bones. The appearance of these skeletons told them that they belonged to humans. Every bone was emitting a dignified mystery in texture, telling the story of how powerful and dignified the owner of these skeletons was when he was alive. Fan Yin used a tree branch to poke at the corpse. Looking at the veins on the corpse, he said faintly, "Along the way, we found more than 10 corpses, all of them in the upper realm. Some of the bones were obviously hit hard, while some of the bones didn't even have a scratch. It can be imagined that the moment their souls were killed, they didn't even have a chance to resist. This shows that we have already entered the danger zone. So, let's keep a low profile, otherwise we won't even know how we died." Of the four of them, only Zhang Yingshi was at Upper God Realm Pinnacle while the others were only at Middle God Realm Pinnacle. This was the weakest cultivation they had encountered so far. The four of them were silent for a long time. They wanted to find a safe route. Even if they wanted to gain experience, it wasn't purely seeking death. Facing those creatures that they couldn't resist was no different from seeking death. At this moment, the gold-devouring toad in Yi Qinghan's body suddenly jumped out. Its mouth puffed up as it gestured towards the northwest. Yi Qinghan comforted the gold-devouring toad and took the lead in heading towards the northwest. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad left Yi Qinghan's body and jumped dozens of meters in one leap, swiftly moving through the steep mountain area. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. The divine bird stood on his shoulder and said in puzzlement, "Did this guy find another immortal material? Why didn't I feel it?" The gold-devouring toad is only interested in high-grade mineral veins. It specializes in this field. It relies on this to make a living. You're just more sensitive to spiritual treasures. You're definitely not on the same level. Fan Yin reminded him faintly. The divine bird glared at Fan Yin and said angrily, "Are you saying that I'm not as good as a toad?" Fan Yin glared at it and retorted without backing down, "I'm not saying that you're not as good as a toad. I'm saying that you're not on the same level as it. If you're unhappy, then tell me now. Are there any better mineral veins around here?" The divine bird immediately withered, but it soon said proudly, "This divine bird likes spiritual medicine and sacred medicine. What's the use of mineral veins? They can't be eaten." Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin mocked it without holding back. This divine bird's despicable nature had already transcended nature. But at this moment, the divine bird's pores suddenly exploded and its eyes widened like lanterns. Whoosh! The divine bird turned into a sharp sword and rushed into the distance. After a few swoops, it appeared on another mountain. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and caught the divine bird. He lowered his voice and asked, "What did you find? This is a dangerous area. If we don't go deep, we'll die. Can you keep a low profile?" "Treasure. I found an important treasure." The divine bird cried out ecstatically. Croak! The gold-devouring toad was even faster. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed to Yi Qinghan's front. It looked down at a mountain in front of it that was filled with spiritual energy. It stuck out its tongue and was very excited. Yi Qinghan also stared at the mountain. The trees there were more lush than the other areas. The thick trunks and roots were intertwined and intertwined. There wasn't even a thorn in the mountain. It was full of ancient vegetation and creatures that had almost transformed. Roar! A low roar, and the sound waves spread out. It penetrated the bones and numbed the scalp. It was as if there were insects crawling on the face. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone. He stood in the distance and looked at the towering mountain. He saw several terrifying beasts and a few huge bird nests in the sky. A few vicious birds were circling in the sky. They were abnormally large. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhang Yingshi and the others had also arrived. They lay behind a huge rock and looked at the opposite shore. Their faces were extremely serious. "That mountain has at least 7 or 8 vicious beasts that are as strong as or even stronger than me. I think there should be treasures there, but we might not be able to get them," Zhang Yingshi said frankly. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and asked the divine bird, "Divine bird, what did you find?" "The entire mountain is filled with stones filled with spiritual energy. That kind of spiritual energy is definitely not ordinary spiritual stones. It's stones that are comparable to sacred medicine." The divine bird drooled. It wanted to pounce on it right now. Stones that were comparable to sacred medicine. Fan Yin, the son of war, and Zhang Yingshi looked at each other and said to themselves in surprise, "Could it be celestial sacred stone? A natural sacred medicine?" At the mention of this name, the son of war, Fan Yin, and the others couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Their eyes were red. "What is it?" Yi Qinghan asked, puzzled. "It's something that the eternal saints use to restore the sacred power in their bodies. This thing is extremely rare and difficult to find in the world. Therefore, saints generally don't fight. Once they exhaust their strength, they can only rely on themselves to slowly recover. It takes hundreds of years for them to return to their peak state. However, once they have the celestial sacred stone, they can return to their peak state in 3 to 5 days, Fan Yin said in a serious voice. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "Is it that exaggerated? It can't appear on this island, can it? Even if it's here, it should have been discovered by other eternal saints." Fan Yin shook his head and said, "Not everyone can find such a mineral vein with a spiritual pet. This kind of mineral vein's aura is restrained, and the sacred power in the celestial sacred stone will never overflow. Even if you and I are so close, can you feel that there is a sacred stone with a lot of spiritual energy in this mountain?" Yi Qinghan shook his head involuntarily. He could only see that there were many creatures living in this mountain, but he couldn't see anything special. Chapter 2069. Yi Qinghan gestured to the gold-devouring toad and whispered, "Go, dig a piece for us to see." The gold-devouring toad rushed into the valley and rushed to the opposite mountain. Its digging speed was comparable to a pangolin's, and it dug into the mountain in a few mouthfuls. The more the gold-devouring toad chewed, the more joyful it became. The spiritual energy inside the mountain grew stronger, but it didn't leak out. It was contained inside the mountain. After a short while, it found that the stones bathed in holy light were piled up in granules. Each piece weighed about 10 pounds and was slightly bigger than a fist. After the gold-devouring toad chewed on a few stones, it felt warm all over. Its skin cracked and then quickly recovered. The blood in its body changed color, and its teeth reformed. It quickly evolved to a mid-level state. After waiting for about 2 hours, the gold-devouring toad finally finished its evolution. Its original skin had all fallen off, and now its skin shone with a golden light. It carried a stone bathed in holy light and rushed to the other side. Yi Qinghan and the others stared expectantly at the gold-devouring toad. Fan Yin and the others opened their eyes wide and stretched their heads to look at the glowing stone. They were extremely excited. Yes. It's really a holy stone. It's a natural object. Ha ha ha. My old man showed me this kind of stone. We're rich. Fan Yin roared. Zhang Yingshi and the Son of War rubbed their hands in excitement. They knew the value of this holy stone. Even if they brought back 100 pieces, the Eternal Saint would personally come out of seclusion to see them and reward them. Yi Qinghan did not have much interest in this kind of thing. He did not need it at the moment, so his expression was normal. However, the divine bird's expression was extremely exaggerated. Its feathers exploded, its mouth opened wide, and it drooled. It wanted nothing more than to rush over and take the holy stone. Wu Shtut the gold-devouring toad brought the holy stone to Yi Qinghan's side and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took the stone and carefully examined it for a moment. He found that the power inside was far superior to the power in his body. It was very pure, and the level of power was far beyond divine power. When he held it in his hand, he found that the power in his body was actually restless. Yi Qinghan casually tossed the Holy Spirit stone to Fan Yin and asked, "Confirm it again, and then we will discuss how to take the Holy Spirit stone at the foot of this mountain." Fan Yin took the holy stone as if he was holding the totem of his faith. He was so excited that his whole body trembled, and he murmured, "This is it. That's it. Its level is very high." Zhang Yingshi and the Son of Battle also became excited. Such a tall mountain, how many heavenly spirit holy stones would there be? There were probably countless of them. What should we do? What should we do now? The Son of War asked excitedly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. When he saw Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin's expressions, he snorted, "What else can we do? Of course, we have to think of a way to drive away all those ferocious beasts and birds so that we can start mining. Holy shit, there are at least 8 of them whose fighting prowess is comparable to mine, and 2 of them are even stronger than mine. How do we chase them away?" Zhang Yingshi blurted out. The 4 of them were completely silent this time. There was treasure in front of them, but they did not have the strength to take it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and summoned the star-twisting vine. He extended a vine to the opposite side and used its antennae to observe the ferocious beasts and birds in the mountain. There's a cow that looks like a unicorn, a wolf that's a mutant, a mantis that's about 10 feet tall, 2 white tigers that weigh several tons, and 3 birds. They're all mutants. As Club Master Zhang said, they're all at the top of the upper level. Yi Qinghan quickly reported the ferocious beasts in the mountain. If the 4 of us work together, we can easily kill one of the ferocious beasts. However, there are 8 of them. If they work together, the 4 of us won't even be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth, Yi Qinghan said honestly. What do we do? Zhang Yingshi and the other 2 asked in unison. Yi Qinghan looked at the 3 of them speechlessly and snorted, "Do the 3 of you only know how to ask what to do? Can't you think of a way yourself? Capable people do more work." Zhang Yingshi and the other 2 replied bluntly. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He didn't want to bother with the 3 of them. He suddenly realized that as long as he was with them, they didn't seem to want to use their brains. Yi Qinghan finally looked at the divine bird and asked, "What do we do?" The divine bird was looking forward to the holy stone the most. Its eyes flickered and its saliva dripped onto the ground. It looked at the distance between the two mountains. It was only about 300 meters. Below it was a plain valley. Finally, it locked its gaze on the gold-devouring toad. We have the gold-devouring toad. We'll dig from the foot of this mountain. We'll dig from the bottom without disturbing them. What do you think? The divine bird probed. The four of them thought for a moment and felt that this plan was feasible. They all nodded. The four of them quickly retreated from the mountain and had the gold-devouring toad dig a tunnel. Its teeth could gnaw through high-grade ore veins, let alone ordinary mountain rocks. Furthermore, it had evolved to the peak of the middle level, so its strength was even greater. Caw caw caw. The gold-devouring toad dug out a huge hole in the ground and continued to dig deeper. Yi Qinghan and the others set up a barrier around the hole to conceal it. Then, they followed the gold-devouring toad all the way down. The slope was about 60 degrees and the vertical depth was about 10 meters. Under normal circumstances, as long as the vicious beasts didn't pay special attention, they wouldn't be able to discover that someone was digging a tunnel. The gold-devouring toad's speed was extremely fast. In less than half a day, it had dug through the two mountains. They didn't expect that there would be a large amount of Holy Spirit stones 10 meters below the mountain. The Holy Spirit stones were piled up piece by piece. There was no need to divide them. The four of them were dumbfounded. How do we divide it? Zhang Yingshi and the others asked again. Yi Qinghan felt comfortable hearing this. He said without holding back, my divine pet contributed the most, so I want half. The rest can be divided among the three of you. Damn, why are you so greedy? Fan Yin cursed without holding back. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and retorted, there are many capable people. Now you're complaining that I'm asking for too much. Cough, cough, cough. Brother Ye's words are true. There are so many Holy Spirit stones. Even if we take half and split it evenly, we'll probably get more than 2,000. I'm satisfied, the Son of War said awkwardly. Zhang Yingshi shrugged and said, no problem. If it weren't for the high-level gold-devouring toad and the divine bird, we wouldn't have known that there were Holy Spirit stones here. Even if we knew, we wouldn't have the ability to take them. I'll take half and a third. No problem. Only then did Fan Yin agree. Then, Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin were in charge of supporting the entire structure of the mountain. The Son of War and Yi Qinghan were in charge of collecting the Holy Spirit stones. The two were extremely fast. Soon, they collected more than 3,000 Holy Spirit stones. A large cave appeared in the mountain. There were still many Holy Spirit stones at the bottom. The two began to dig down. They dug for 3 days and collected more than 35,000 Holy Spirit stones. A large stone layer began to appear at the bottom. The stones were extremely hard. However, Yi Qinghan didn't dare to test it. He was afraid that it would cause the mountain to collapse. Therefore, he and the Son of War went up to collect. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin used their divine power to support the structure of the mountain. Although they were tired, seeing that they had collected so many Holy Spirit stones, their tiredness was swept away. This mountain stretched endlessly. Holy Spirit stones were everywhere. Based on initial estimates, they could collect at least 50,000 Holy Spirit stones. Chapter 2070. Fortunately, only the inner part of the mountain had the Holy Spirit stones. With the support of 2 experts, the mountain did not collapse. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War's hands were like machines as they continuously collected the Holy Spirit stones. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan's storage ring was given to the Chess Supreme by the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, and the Chess Supreme gave it to him. Such a storage ring was enough to hold a small domain, and it could also hold living things. When Yi Qing Han continued to collect the Holy Spirit stones, he found that the stones were not only at the foot of the mountain, but also on the other side of the mountain. 50,000 stones. Yi Qing Han had already searched more than 100 meters away from the other side of the mountain. He alone had collected more than 50,000 pieces, while the progeny of battle had collected about 30,000 pieces. However, there was still a large amount of heavenly sacred stones as far as the eye could see. We're rich. Ha ha ha. If we sell it for 10,000 stones, the Eternal Ones will fight over it, Yi Qing Han said ecstatically. When Fan Yin heard this, he snorted and said, "This is not for sale. If you dare to sell it, my family's old man will break your legs. This thing is the same as the immortal material. It belongs to whoever snatches it. Look at who took it out to sell it. Fairy Fan Yin is right. It's not for sale." Zhang Yingshi said calmly, her eyes full of light. However, she did not want to give the Holy Spirit stones to the Eternal Ones of the Heavens Chant Mansion. She wanted to keep it for herself. The Son of War kept grabbing the Holy Spirit stones with both hands. He was ecstatic. At this rate, he could get at least 10,000 stones. If he handed over half, he could still get 5,000 stones. After collecting for about 20 days, Yi Qing Han had collected 34,000 stones. Yi Qing Han had already moved a few hundred meters away from the mountain. There were no more stones beyond that, and all that was left was a mess of stones. I've collected 108,000 stones. There's still some left. The Son of War laughed. I've collected a little more than 34,000 stones. Yi Qing Han smiled. He had the help of the star-twisting vine, the divine bird, and the gold-devouring toad. His speed was much faster than the Son of War. The two of them got a total of 411,000 yuan. Let's split up. Once we leave, the mountain will collapse. Everyone, be careful, Zhang Yingshi said solemnly. Once we're out, we'll quickly escape. Those ferocious beasts will definitely not let us off. Fan Yin also reminded. Yi Qing Han put away all the spirit pets and quickly left through the tunnel with the Son of War. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin tried to reduce the support of their godly power. Slowly, rocks began to fall from the sky above the mountain. Whoosh! The two of them quickly rushed towards the entrance of the cave, causing the mountain to shake and rumble. Boom! A rock fell and hit the bottom of the cave. The huge explosion shook the mountain, and then the whole mountain collapsed. Boom! Boom! Roar! As the mountains collapsed, the beasts and birds were startled and rushed into the sky. Each of them looked at the collapsed mountain with a dumbfounded expression. Then, they raised their heads and roared into the sky. Their huge forelimbs smashed through the ground and broke several ancient trees. They actually uprooted the thick ancient trees. These powerful saint beasts were especially sensitive to spiritual qi. How could they not know that the spiritual qi in this mountain was already depleted? Therefore, they were furious and searched everywhere for the culprit. At this moment, Yi Qing Han and the other three left the cave and rushed towards the east at lightning speed. Screech! 3 powerful ferocious birds discovered their tracks from the sky and swooped down. Their sharp claws crushed the mountain rocks and ancient trees as they pounced on the 4 experts. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The 4 of them did not dare to be restrained by the birds. They could only desperately escape into the distance. The birds were faster than Fan Yin. If not for the mountain and ancient trees blocking them, the 4 of them would have been killed. The 4 of them were thin and weak. They had the advantage and kept changing directions. However, the 5 ferocious beasts behind them flattened the mountain peaks and smashed through the mountains and rivers. They chased from behind and roared angrily, shaking the 9 heavens. Come closer to me. I'm going to activate the forbidden technique. I'll leave the rest to you. Yi Qing Han looked at the approaching ferocious beasts and birds. He did not dare to delay any longer. He prepared to use the Green Lotus Deity Step, seizing the heavens, and shadowless cloud, two saint arts. Okay. The three of them trusted Yi Qinghan unconditionally. Fan Yin ran onto Yi Qinghan's back while the son of war and Zhang Yingshi held onto his arms. Yi Qinghan's legs tightened. Two surges of divine power flowed through his body at the same time. His blood boiled and his veins bulged. He stomped on the mountain rocks and his body suddenly rose into the air. His afterimage was still in the same place as he disappeared into the sky above the eastern plains with the three of them. Yi Qinghan's body was still in the air. His divine power was exhausted and he fell from the sky. Protect me. I don't have any strength left. Yi Qinghan shouted. Whoosh, the four of them smashed into the ground at the same time. They were so fast that the others could not react in time. Zhang Yingshi was an expert of the older generation. She realized something was wrong and grabbed Yi Qinghan. She gradually reduced her speed and protected the three of them as they landed on the ground. Yi Qinghan's entire body went limp. His body was empty. Even his skin had dimmed. Fan Yin immediately took out a holy pill and placed it in Yi Qinghan's mouth without hesitation. It melted in his mouth. Boom! Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground. He crossed his palms and used his divine power to restore his divine power. The holy light flowed and bathed his body. At this moment, Xia Jiulong led a large group of experts from the south and headed north. They were only 2 hours away from Yi Qinghan's position. In the depths of the island, the 5 ferocious beasts and 3 birds chased after Yi Qinghan's aura like crazy. No matter how fast Yi Qinghan was, he stirred up space-time when he moved. The spiritual energy fluctuations were also different. The birds had a stronger sense of smell. They actually followed Yi Qinghan's trajectory to the east. The 8 ferocious beasts were much faster than Xia Jiulong's group. They would probably catch up to Yi Qinghan's group of 4 in 2 hours. Yi Qinghan's body was empty. If he wanted to recover to his peak, it would be impossible for him to do so without 2 hours. Therefore, according to the speed of the 3 parties, they would definitely clash here. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi looked into the distance. They felt a murderous aura shrouding their hearts and did not dare to stay for long. Son of War, make a small cart and place little Yi on it. Shall we continue forward? Fan Yin asked. The Son of War did not hesitate. He waved his hand and chopped off a large ancient tree. His saber skills were divine as he chopped the tree into pieces and quickly assembled them into a flat board. He then built 4 wooden wheels and a few brackets. Soon, a small cart was formed. Let's go and find a safe place to split the treasures. The Son of War placed Yi Qinghan on the cart and pushed it into the distance. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin guarded the 2 sides. Their weapons and defensive holy armors were fully activated as they rushed north. The 4 continued north, but the birds and ferocious beasts did not change their direction. They kept heading east. Xia Jiulong's group was also heading north. Therefore, Xia Jiulong, the birds, and the ferocious beasts would definitely clash here. At this moment, Xia Jiulong did not sense any danger. He never dreamed that there would be so many large ferocious beasts and birds in the plains. Instead, he waved the 9 dragons fan and urged everyone to speed up. Chapter 2071. Xia Jiulong held the 9 dragon fan in his hand as his figure flashed. His speed was extremely fast, and his eyes were as dazzling as the stars. He always looked so carefree and sunny. The Crown Prince's aura was vast and mighty. Hundreds of experts moved forward together, all of them extremely confident. Who would dare to fight against such a team unless they encountered an eternal being? Many experts charged towards the northeast. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed 1,000 miles. 8 powerful beasts with surging evil auras forced their way into the plains and swept through everything in their path. Tens of thousands of beasts were frightened and formed a huge beast tide. The two sides were only a few thousand miles away from each other. Xia Jiulong didn't care at first. Instead, he sped up. However, when they were less than a few hundred miles away, his eyes shone brightly as he slowed down and stared into the distance. Xian Xiu also sensed the angry roars of the beast tide, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. "Your Highness, should we avoid them?" Xian Xiu asked in alarm. Xia Jiulong was silent for a moment before saying in a deep voice, "Such a huge beast tide must have been provoked. The only ones who can provoke these beasts must be Yi Qinghan and the others. They should be in front. Let's chase after them." "Your Highness, it will be very dangerous if this continues," Xian Xiu bowed and reminded him. Xia Jiulong's eyes were filled with killing intent and resentment. His resentment towards Yi Qinghan had reached its peak. He didn't care about any danger. "We have to kill Yi Qinghan, no matter how dangerous it is." Xia Jiulong made the final decision. The divine generals, blood-robed guards, and bounty hunters had no choice but to charge forward. Whoosh, in the blink of an eye, hundreds of figures rushed to where Yi Qinghan had landed. However, the huge beast horde was already in front of them. Without any hesitation, the beast horde charged at them. The strength of the beast horde at the front wasn't that great. It was a one-sided battle. Tens of thousands of beasts were slaughtered, and rivers of blood flowed. Corpses piled up like mountains. Xia Jiulong waved the nine-dragon fan in his hand, and the force shattered mountains and rivers. Even the corpses of the flying beasts were shattered. He led the group to crush the beast tide. The beast tide rushed in all directions, causing the earth to tremble as if thousands of horses were galloping. Roar! The 8 most powerful flying beasts pounced through the air, bearing their fangs. Their forelimbs smashed mountains and rivers as they discovered Xia Jiulong's group of experts. They commanded the 10,000 beasts to attack Xia Jiulong. Screech! Whoosh! The bird's long beak pierced through a powerful being's defenses, and its sharp claws grabbed a powerful upper-level bounty hunter. It actually dragged him into the void and tore him apart. Boom! Whoosh! His flesh and blood were torn into pieces, and blood dyed the sky red. A shrill cry had just echoed out when the ferocious bird swallowed all of his flesh and blood into its stomach. Roar! A mutant white tiger charged into the crowd. Its claws were powerful, and they pierced through the defenses of the elites. It opened its mouth and bit down. Its bite power was 3 times stronger than a high-tier saint artifact. Its huge claws broke the high-tier saint artifact, and it pressed down on an elite. It opened its mouth and swallowed him whole. Everyone was shocked and fled in horror. The group was thrown into chaos, and in the blink of an eye, they lost 10 blood-robed guards and bounty hunters. Xia Jiulong was burning with anger. He roared, and his entire body was bathed in golden light. A divine dragon swam, and the heavenly dragon's aura surged into the starry river. The 9 dragons' fan transformed into 9 heavenly dragons that swooped down and attacked the 4 ferocious beasts. Roar! The beasts roared and dragons roared as they fought. Ravines appeared on the plains, and killing intent soared into the sky. At this time, Yi Qinghan and the others had already fled tens of thousands of miles away. Yi Qinghan was still recovering his divine power, and the son of battle was pushing the small wooden cart and fleeing. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi rushed into the starry sky and smiled as they saw the heavenly dragons roaring, the beasts roaring, and the white tiger tearing through the void. That idiot Xia Jiulong is also here. He took the blame for us as soon as we met him. It must have been hard on him, Fan Yin said with a smile. Zhang Yingshi covered his mouth and laughed. Fan Yin was probably the only one who dared to call Xia Jiulong a retard. But now that he's here, our situation will be even more dangerous. We have to be on guard against him, Zhang Yingshi reminded. From the looks of it, he probably brought a lot of experts with him. But after this battle, it'll be good if 3/5 of them are still alive. At least dozens of people will die. Fan Yin said with certainty. The son of battle stopped and gasped for breath. His handsome and strong face had a trace of redness, and his excitement still hadn't dissipated. After a while, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. Divine power flowed through his limbs and bones, and his skin became crystal clear again. Divine light circulated, and his temperament underwent a transcendent change. He still held a heavenly sacred stone in his hand. He had only used half of it, but the power in his body had changed. It was of a higher level than before, but it was far from the power of an eternal sovereign. Hua! Yi Qinghan rushed into the clouds and stood beside Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi. He looked into the distance and was surprised to see 9 dragons flying into the sky and tearing apart powerful beasts. There were also many experts besieging them. He couldn't help but be surprised. Xia Jiulong is actually here. Let's go quickly. They have a lot of people, and we can't beat them, Yi Qinghan said frankly. Let's go and find a safe place to divide the treasures, Fan Yin said excitedly. The 4 of them left immediately. Their figures flashed, and they rushed into the depths of the mountain range. They found a place with good feng shui. There were no experts around. Yi Qinghan released the star-twining vine to defend the surroundings, and the 4 of them sat cross-legged in the valley to divide the treasures. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War put all the Holy Spirit stones together. Yi Qinghan casually took half of them, and the rest were divided into 3 parts. The number was about the same, and no one cared about it. After all, there were too many. The total is a little more than 410,000. I'll take 200,000, and there'll be 210,000 left. Each of you will take a little more than 70,000. As for how you'll arrange it, we'd better be unified. Otherwise, we won't get any benefits, Yi Qinghan reminded them. Obviously, if the eternal sovereigns knew about this, it would be strange if they didn't fight over it. What kind of saint had no desires? That was because they weren't interested in some temptations. Let's say we got 40,000. You got 20,000, and we each got 7,000. When the time comes, we'll hand over all 7,000 to the Holy Land, and keep the rest for ourselves. Isn't that enough? Zhang Yingshi said seriously. Fan Yin didn't mind. After all, she was raised by the old man, and they were like father and daughter. There was no need to be so particular. However, Zhang Yingshi wanted to have her own reserves because she also wanted to become an eternal sovereign. The Son of War clenched his fists. In such a huge battle clan, if he didn't keep some reserves for himself, he might not be able to keep his position as a true disciple. Therefore, he agreed with Zhang Yingshi. Yi Qinghan nodded and didn't refute anything. Fan Yin looked at Yi Qinghan curiously and asked, "How are you going to spend the 20,000 on the surface?" Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and sighed. There are some treasures that I can't keep. When the time comes, I'll give 5,000 to the old man, 3,000 to the chess supreme, and 3,000 to the person behind me. There'll be 9,000 left. 8,000 will be used as a betrothal gift. The Martial Dao Supremacy Holy Land will get 5,000, and the Oshi Holy Land will get 3,000. Fanny nodded. Yi Qinghan was indebted to the chess supremacy. This debt of gratitude had to be repaid. Chapter 2072. After splitting the treasures, Yi Qinghan and the others didn't stop. They continued to venture deeper, but Xia Jiulong wasn't so lucky. He forcefully took on the burden that Yi Qinghan had thrown at them, causing them to suffer heavy losses. Xia Jiulong led everyone to beat back the beast tide. Even the 8 vicious beasts were beaten until they were covered in dirt and fled in a sorry state. However, out of the 200 to 300 people he had brought with him, 70 to 80 had died, and the rest were injured. Cough, cough, Xia Jiulong coughed up blood. The fury in his eyes had solidified. Yi Qinghan. Xia Jiulong roared and clenched his fists. He ordered the Xian cultivators to reorganize the team and soared into the sky, heading straight for the depths. The blood-robed guards followed Yi Qinghan's trail. Whoosh! The auras of the 200 experts soared into the sky. Their killing intent was dense. At this time, they vented all their anger on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan knew nothing about their losses. At this moment, he was leading the other three and his divine pet to hide in the depths of the mountains to continue searching for treasures. Coiling Dragon Island's mountains were like coiling dragons that stretched endlessly. They were thick and majestic. The scenery was picturesque. A waterfall fell from the sky, and hundreds of birds sang softly. It was like the sound of nature. The four handsome men and beautiful women held divine weapons in their hands. They were cautious and didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. They advanced step by step. Along the way, the divine bird and the gold-devouring toad searched for treasures. They found many sacred medicines, including more than 30 stalks that were more than 100,000 years old. They were the favorite of the upper-level cultivators. However, the other three didn't want much. They only took 12 stalks out of the 30 stalks. Each of them had 4 stalks, and Yi Qinghan had 20. The gold-devouring toad found some high-grade ore veins, but they were all one entity. Yi Qinghan and the others wanted to, but they didn't have the strength. They could only give up and leave after making a mark. The 4 experts also encountered some powerful vicious beasts, but they didn't live in groups. 4 against 1, they heavily injured several powerful vicious beasts. However, their luck was extremely good. They didn't encounter any creatures like the Azure Emperor one. The 4 became more and more excited. They felt that the legendary coiling Dragon Island wasn't that scary. It was simply a cultivator's paradise. Screech! With a furious roar, the sky turned into a blue sky. Green light covered the sky and covered the earth, and a mighty pressure swept out. A bird's shadow pounced down from the sky, and with a flap of its wings, it covered 1,000 miles. It's the verdant Emperor Wan. The blue Emperor Wan rushed into the depths of the forest with anger. It flew over the 4 people's heads as if it wanted to kill all of its enemies. With a flash of green light, it could actually kill powerful birds and beasts. Yi Qinghan and the others crouched at the foot of the mountain, not daring to make the slightest movement. Who offended Qing Diwan? From the looks of it, it was just a battle earlier. In the end, not only did he not win, he even got injured. Now, he's going to take revenge? Fan Yin said in surprise. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, he clenched his fist crazily and raised his saber to pursue. Stand! Yi Qinghan, are you crazy? Zhang Yingshi asked in shock. However, Yi Qinghan didn't listen to Zhang Yingshi at all. Instead, he chased after the blue Emperor Wan, and his speed was getting faster and faster. For some reason, he felt that the blue Emperor Wan was one of his opportunities. The son of war, Fan Yin, and the others looked at each other. They didn't want him to take the risk alone, so they could only follow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The 4 experts chased after the blue Emperor Wan in the sky. The blue Emperor Wan seemed to only want to take revenge, and didn't care about the 4 experts in the mountain. Screech! The blue Emperor Wan let out a long screech and spread its wings. The green light was mixed with white light, and it was as beautiful as a phoenix, dancing in the sky. In the depths of the forest, a powerful pressure responded to the blue Emperor Wan. It seemed to be filled with disdain and anger. The powerful flame covered the sky and covered the earth, sweeping across thousands of miles. It was powerful and ferocious. Roar! Screech! The ancient beast language reverberated in the sky. The 2 sides didn't fight, but they were already arguing with each other. No one could understand the language of beasts, but the divine bird could. The language of beasts was exactly the same, and there was no difference. The vicious creature in the depths of the forest stole the Blue Emperor Wan's children. Listening to its voice, the vicious creature in the depths of the forest is a fire hoe. The Blue Emperor Wan is also a fire-type bird, and is one of the fire hoe's food sources. However, the fire hoe can't beat the adult Blue Emperor Wan, so it specializes in hunting the young ones. The divine bird explained, when the Blue Emperor Wan left to find food, the fire hoe attacked the nest of the Blue Emperor Wan and swallowed all 3 of its children. The Blue Emperor Wan came to take revenge, but there are 2 fire hoe in the depths of the forest, 1 male and 1 female. They joined forces, and the Blue Emperor Wan's strength hasn't reached the peak yet, so it can't beat the fire hoe. The grudges between the 2 sides were quickly settled. There were 2 fire hoe in the depths of the forest, and when they joined forces, they were even stronger than the Blue Emperor Wan. Zhang Yingshi's face was ugly. He pulled Yi Qinghan and said, "Don't mess around. Interfering in this matter is no different from seeking death." Yi Qinghan's eyes were firm. He wildly said, "A fire hoe's fire attribute monster core is absolutely at the level of an immortal medicine. This is the best opportunity. As long as I can obtain a fire hoe's monster core, I can attack the upper level boundary. But you can't risk your life to snatch it." Fan Yin reminded him, aghast. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. He faintly asked, "Look at all the things on my body. Which one of them wasn't obtained by risking my life? Isn't it a heavenly sacred stone? Isn't it a divine gold immortal material?" The son of war and the others were silent. It seemed that Yi Qinghan had already made up his mind. "I will definitely take action. As long as you help me, the 4 of us can join forces and kill a fire hoe. With the fire hoe's monster core in my hands, my fire attribute monster core will reach perfection, and I will reach the peak of the upper level boundary. As long as I gather enough monster cores from the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, then I will be able to achieve eternity. This is an opportunity for me. If you want to withdraw, I won't make things difficult for you." Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The son of war had obtained so many heavenly sacred stones out of thin air. Without Yi Qinghan, no one else would have been able to obtain so many heavenly sacred stones. Now that Yi Qinghan needed their help, if they left, that would be too immoral. The son of war thought for a moment and then nodded. He firmly said, "I'll help you. At worst, I'll die. If I don't die, I'll definitely have good fortune in the future." Fan Yin was naturally willing to help Yi Qinghan. Not only that, but she also had the Yin-Yang Bagua Daoist robe on her body. The fire hoe might not be able to kill her. "I'll help you." Fan Yin followed. Zhang Yingshi sighed and said, "All right, then I'll accompany you 3 little lunatics in your madness." Yi Qinghan smiled. He stroked the seal on the hilt of Frenzy Saber. If he opened another seal and couldn't kill the fire hoe within 10 moves, then he would die without a doubt. This was because Frenzy Saber would absorb all of his supernatural power. Without supernatural power, how could he survive alone in the center of the battlefield? Fan Yin immediately pressed down on Yi Qinghan's hand. She shook her head and said, "Don't open another seal. My family's old man said that before you reach the upper level boundary, you shouldn't open the 3rd seal." Yi Qinghan confidently smiled and said, "Wealth comes from danger. Believe me, the 3 of you will support me and I will be the main attacker. With the Blue Emperor Wan entangling another one, 10 moves will be more than enough for me to kill a fire hoe." At this time, the Blue Emperor Wan and the 2 firehouse had already begun fighting in the depths of the battlefield. Their auras soared to the heavens. Flames soared to the heavens, and even space began to burn. Chapter 2073. Roar. The 2 hornless beasts soared into the sky, entangling with each other like fire dragons, trying to entangle the verdant Emperor Wan. The blue Emperor Wan's silhouette flickered. Green light cut through time and space, rushing in all directions, shocking thousands of miles. The powerful beasts in the surroundings didn't dare to be affected and all fled into the distance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan tore open the third seal and drew his saber. His aura was like a rainbow as he slashed at the void. Boom! The Yin-Yang 8 trigrams formation appeared in front of his Taoist robe, sweeping up the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and turning it into his own. He was extremely powerful, and in the blink of an eye, he had killed his way to the periphery of the battlefield. Lord Luan, let me help you. Yi Qinghan roared angrily and swung his saber at a fire-hornless centipede. The tyrannical 7 feet heavy saber swept across, and its imposing aura surged in all directions. Boom boom boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In a flash, the sky was engulfed in flames and space and time collapsed. Yi Qinghan was bathed in flames as he resisted Huo Wu's flames. He tore through the stellar energy and attacked Huo Wu's body. Screech! The blue Emperor Wan seized the opportunity to attack the other fire-hornless beast, separating the two fire-hornless beasts. Roar! Huo Wu was enraged. He twisted his body and smashed his tail towards Berserk. The current Berserk could already exhaust 10% of the Eternal Saint artifact's strength. Both sides collided, and shockwaves of fire flattened the mountain range. Boom! Yi Qinghan was sent flying thousands of meters away by this attack, crashing into a mountain peak. However, 90% of the aftershock was absorbed by the Yin-Yang Bagua Daoist robe. He only suffered 10% of the power, so he was not injured. However, a lot of his divine power was consumed. The fire-hornless dragon's defenses were torn apart by this blade. It violently chopped open its scales and actually tore apart its flesh. Roar! Roar! The fire-horned Ho miserably cried out. Flames shattered mountains and rivers, and its mournful cries caused the other fire-horned Ho to be enraged. It desperately tried to kill the blue Emperor Wan, but it was suppressed from beginning to end. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom! The Son of War, Fan Yin, and Zhang Yingshi all erupted with attacks. They supported Hua Ho with attacks from all sides, hanging from a distance and launching long-range killing moves. They didn't want to give Hua Ho a chance to kill Yi Qinghan. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan breathed out a few mouthfuls of turbid air and raised his knife to attack again. He gathered his divine power and the 8 trigrams wrapped around his golden body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was forcefully reversed and rushed into his body, gathering on the heavy frenzy knife. The purple lightning turned into a swimming dragon and swam on the back of the saber. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan swung his saber at the Huo Wu again and roared, "Open!" Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! The Hua Ho's scales couldn't even be melted by lava, and had been tempered by powerful flames for countless years. But in the face of Berserk, who had opened his third seal, it was still somewhat fragile. The Hua Ho felt the dense killing intent and continuously roared, hoping that the other Hua Ho would come over to help. It also made its most terrifying counterattack. With a dragon tail whip, it caused the heavens and earth to collapse, mountains and rivers to cry, and the great Tao to mourn. The shockwave sent the Child of War and Zhang Yingshi flying. With the protection of his Daoist robe, Fan Yin was still able to protect himself. The pulling silk thread in his hand turned into tens of thousands of feet long, constantly wrapping around the fire puppet. Shoo! 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 One end of the pulling silk thread wrapped around the Hua Ho's 7 inches and the other end wrapped around its massive tail. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the situation to attack the center of the Hua Ho's body. With a slash of his saber, the Hua Ho fell from the sky. Boom! Roar! The Hua Ho was enraged from being smashed. It swung its tail at Yi Qinghan and sent him flying. Boom! Yi Qinghan's golden body nearly shattered. His body was sent flying into the distance like a broken kite. Even with the protection of his Taoist robe, he was still severely injured. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His eyes lost focus and he couldn't even stand up. Shoo! Shoo! Boundless heaven and earth, the great Tao locks the soul. With the pulling silk thread out, the golden body cannot escape. Fan Yin cast an incantation. The pulling silk thread grew longer and longer. Countless threads wrapped around the Huaho's golden body. At this time, the Huaho had been severely injured by Yi Qinghan and was unable to resist for a moment. Its body was bound by the pulling silk thread. The Huaho's body twisted. It wanted to struggle and break the pulling silk thread. The pulling silk thread was made of immortal material, it wasn't something that anyone could break. The pulling silk thread grew tighter and tighter. The Huaho roared, twisting the pulling silk thread into a straight line. Fan Yin used all of his strength but was still unable to lock down the Huaho's golden body. He could only temporarily control it. "Help, me!" Fan Yin roared. Blood flowed from his 7 orifices. His monstrous face was fierce and terrifying. Boom! The son of war chopped down with his saber, aiming for the vital point. Zhang Yingshi had a sword hidden in his sleeves. It pierced through space and time and struck towards the Huaho's eyes. Boom boom boom. Shoo! Shoo! Roar! The Huaho swung its tail. Seeing that it was about to be locked down, it could only struggle with all its might. This caused Fan Yin to bear more and more force. Her fingers were bleeding from the pulling silk thread and her jade-like hands were about to be cut open. At this time, Yi Qinghan clenched his teeth and soared into the sky. His hands grasped the berserk saber, he swooped down from the sky, slashing down at the Huaho's vital point. Hua! The water origin twisted wildly, bringing with it a destructive murderous intent as it arrived in front of Huawu. Boom! Puchi! The defense of the Huaho's vital point was the weakest. It was pierced through by Yi Qinghan's saber. Screech! Screech! Roar! The Huaho's roar changed. With a final desperate strike, it broke free from Fan Yin's shackles. Its tail swept out, sending the son of war, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and Yi Qinghan flying away. Puff! Yi Qinghan and the others madly sprinted for blood essence. The 4 of them were struck together. Luckily, the son of war and Zhang Yingshi were the last to withstand less than 10% of the force. Otherwise, they would have been instantly killed. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin blocked 99% of the force. Even with the help of their robes, their bodies were still covered in cracks. Their blood dyed their golden bodies red. Bang! The 4 of them smashed into a mountain. They were dizzy, and their souls were almost shattered. The son of war and Zhang Yingshi fainted on the spot. Fan Yin had never suffered such a terrifying attack and also lost consciousness. Only Yi Qinghan clenched his teeth and remained conscious. The Huaho that was attacked fell from the sky. 7 inches from its throat, the heavy frenzy sank into its throat. Blood dyed its golden body. It struggled for a few moments before completely losing consciousness. Roar! The other Huaho roared in despair. It was killed by the Blue Emperor Wan in a moment of distraction, and its Naiden was taken away. Yi Qinghan crawled out of the mountain and quickly pulled out the heavy frenzy. He cut open the Huaho's body and took out the Naiden. He took several steps back and looked at the enraged Blue Emperor Wan. He quickly said, "Lord Blue Emperor Wan, we were helping you out of the kindness of our hearts." The Blue Emperor Wan looked down at Yi Qinghan. Seeing that his golden body was almost destroyed and his 3 helpers had fainted in the mountain, the hostility in its eyes finally dissipated. "Azure Emperor Wan, if I only wanted the inner core, I would have waited until both sides were severely injured before making my move. However, I wanted to avenge you, so I made my move earlier." I hope you can understand my intentions, Yi Qinghan explained once again. I understand. Thank you for helping me get my revenge. I will remember this kindness. My Blue Emperor Wan clan will never repay kindness with ingratitude. The Niden in the Blue Emperor Wan's beak quickly flew towards Yi Qinghan. Since you need the Huaho's Niden, I will give it to you. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He quickly waved his hand and borrowed the Huaho's Niden. 2 Nadens were enough for him to cultivate his fire elemental origin to perfection. His fire elemental origin would stabilize at the peak of the upper level. Thank you, Lord Blue Emperor Wan, for helping me. Yi Qinghan quickly bowed. The Blue Emperor Wan licked its wounds and looked at the 2 Huaho. Its eyes were full of sorrow. It had killed its enemy, but its children would never come back to life. You guys should leave quickly. The battle here will attract stronger beings. If you don't leave now, you will be implicated. The Blue Emperor Wan reminded them. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He quickly begged, Lord Blue Emperor Wan, please take us with you. We have suffered heavy losses. If we don't find a safe place to rest, we will die. After that, Yi Qinghan quickly dragged Fan Yin, the son of battle, and Zhang Yingshi out of the mountain. He looked at the Blue Emperor Wan expectantly. Chapter 2074. The Blue Emperor Wan was, after all, a highly intelligent and emotional creature. Yi Qinghan, the son of war, and the others had just helped it, so it couldn't reject them directly. It spread its wings and carried the 3 unconscious people away. Yi Qinghan quickly jumped onto the Blue Emperor Wan's back. The Blue Emperor Wan was extremely fast, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. After the Blue Emperor Wan left with the 4 people, less than an incense stick of time, at least a dozen flocks of griffins rushed over. These griffins had steel-like wings, and their fangs could pierce through high-grade or veins. They actually ate the flesh of the fire hornless as food. The fire hornless defenses were extremely powerful. The griffins effortlessly tore through their scales and swallowed their flesh and blood. The fire hornless bodies were powerful, but they still weren't enough to be eaten by the griffins. An hour later, more than half of the 2 fire hornless bodies had been swallowed up. The griffins were savage and ferocious. They tore apart the fire hornless bodies, causing rivers of blood to flow. Many birds and beasts circling around didn't dare to approach. And at this time, Xia Jiulong arrived late, bringing a large number of masters with him. As he entered the valley, he discovered that there were so many vicious creatures eating the fire hornless bodies. The griffins also discovered Xia Jiulong and the others. They released the flesh and blood of the fire hornless and glared at Xia Jiulong. Xia Jiulong sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't dare to resist, so he turned and ran. Run! It was unknown who shouted this, but the voice changed, becoming hoarse and panicked. Less than 200 people fled back the way they came, rushing towards the plains. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. This group of people were all upper boundary masters. Their speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had fled over 1,000 miles. But the griffins were even faster. Screech. Roar. More than a dozen griffins spread their wings and soared into the skies, rushing forwards. The vicious beasts and birds that didn't dare to approach the griffins also rushed forwards. Their roars shook the mountains and rivers, and their wings stirred up time and space. Airflow swept out like a turbulent river. Some of the weaker upper boundary masters couldn't even fly. They screamed as they plummeted to the ground. Roar. 2 or 3 griffins rushed forwards, their fangs piercing through the defenses. The upper boundary masters were torn apart, and not even their souls could escape. Ah! Crown Prince, save me, save me. But Xia Jiulong did not dare allow himself to be surrounded by the griffins. He was the first to escape. The upper-class warrior was instantly annihilated. Not even his bones remained. Roar! Numerous griffins and flying beasts chased after him relentlessly. The ferocious beasts flattened the mountain rocks as they charged straight through. Both sides fought endlessly, and blood flowed like a river. Xia Jiulong's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets and he was burning with rage. They hadn't even encountered Yi Qinghan yet, and they had already suffered such heavy losses. Roar! Xia Jiulong waved his hand behind him. 9 sky dragons came out of the 9-dragon fan. They went straight for the Griffin's Enigeniac, buying time for his people. After all, the 9-dragon fan was a high-grade sacred artifact. It didn't have the aura of an eternal sacred artifact, but it was indeed an eternal sacred artifact. Its lethality was astonishing, forcing the Griffin to retreat. Xia Jiulong kept attacking, buying time. The Blood Strike guards, generals, and bounty hunters finally had time to catch their breaths. They fought and retreated until they reached the plains. The Blood Strike guards had lost 13 members, and the bounty hunters had lost 9. But the Griffin's Enigeniacs didn't seem to want to leave the mountains and enter the plains. They were forced to retreat. Roar! The flying beasts fought for a while, but when they saw the Griffins retreat, they had no choice but to give up on chasing Xia Jiulong and the others. Whoosh! Whoosh! The remaining 100 or so experts let out a few deep breaths. They looked into the depths of the mountains in fear, then looked at the people around them. Their eyes were filled with anger and fear. Xian Xiu looked at this group of people and helplessly said, "Your Highness, we have lost another 30 people. We can't keep following them like this. Yi Qinghan and the other bastards are causing trouble, and we have to take the blame. If this continues, we will be wiped out before we can catch up to them." Xia Jiulong was burning with anger, and his entire body was trembling. An unprecedented sense of defeat enveloped his heart. He comforted himself by saying, "This should have nothing to do with Yi Qinghan. They can't kill the 2 powerful hornless beasts." He was just passing by. Everyone looked at each other. Most of them understood that one of the hornless beasts had Yi Qinghan's aura, as well as Fan Yin's aura. How could such a violent aura have nothing to do with Yi Qinghan? "Your Highness, what do we do now?" Xian Xiu asked with a bitter smile. Xia Jiulong turned his back to the crowd, not wanting them to see his anger. He patted his chest, trying to calm himself down as much as possible. His eyes looked at the endless sea in the east, and he took a few deep breaths. "Ever since I saw Yi Qinghan, my luck has worsened," Xia Jiulong roared inwardly, clenching his fists. He really didn't dare to continue the chase. "Let's go directly to the entrance of the Coiling Dragon's secret realm and wait for them to arrive." After a long time, Xia Jiulong made a decision. He turned to the blood-robed guards and said, "All blood-robed guards, go deep into the island. Split up into groups of 2 and take care of each other. Find Yi Qinghan's true whereabouts and report back immediately. We obey your Highness's orders." There were less than 70 blood-robed guards left. They were all injured, but for the sake of eliminating Yi Qinghan, they endured it and quickly left. Xia Jiulong looked down and waved his hand. He grunted and said, "Everyone, follow me." In the endless coiling dragon island, the Azure Emperor One actually had several nests. It led the 4 sleepy people into the depths of the island. There was an enormous ancient tree with long branches and roots that covered the sky. Ancient vines and thick trunks intertwined. It was a completely different world inside. Whoosh, the Azure Emperor Wan led the 4 into the tree. The nest was covered by leaves, making it look like a palace. There were high-grade saint artifacts hanging all around. There were even some immortal materials that had been gathered by the Azure Emperor Wan. "Humans. Thank you for helping me take revenge. I also saved you once. Once your injuries are healed, you can leave. We don't owe each other anything." Qing Diluan placed the 4 on the super acupuncture point and said in a clear voice. Yi Qinghan nodded gratefully. He took out a Holy Spirit stone and said respectfully, Lord Azure Emperor Wan, thank you for saving my life. This Holy Spirit stone might be useful to you. The Azure Emperor Wan was a knowledgeable saint beast. It could tell at a glance that this was a Holy Spirit stone. Without any hesitation, it flapped its wings and swallowed the Holy Spirit stone into its stomach. Its wounds were actually healing rapidly. Yi Qinghan and the others were also healing their injuries. They didn't dare to relax. Time flew by. The scorching sun disappeared and was replaced by a setting sun. The stars in the sky flickered. Yi Qinghan was the first to open his eyes. The heavenly sacred stone in his hand had been completely absorbed and turned into dust. The power in his body was surging like the sea, endless and boundless. His power changed again, transforming into the eternal saint energy. At this moment, the Azure Emperor Wan looked down at Yi Qinghan. Its eyes shone as it asked indifferently, Human, why did you help me? Chapter 2075. Facing the Blue Emperor Wan's question, Yi Qinghan did not hesitate and immediately replied, Lord Blue Emperor Wan, I helped you out of my own selfishness. First, I wanted to obtain the fire worm's inner core. Secondly, I wanted to help you. As for helping you, I believe that you are not an ordinary bird. You have already transcended the mortal world. Your intelligence is higher than humans, and you have feelings. Moreover, you spared my life before, so consider it as me repaying your kindness. Yi Qinghan's answer was flawless. The Blue Emperor Wan felt comfortable listening to it, but it did not feel that he was flattering it. The Blue Emperor Wan nodded and then continued to retreat into the depths of its nest, no longer caring about Yi Qinghan. The other three had almost been killed this time. Their internal organs had been displaced, and it took them more than 10 days to wake up. At this time, Yi Qinghan was guarding the three of them. He did not even have time to refine the inner cores. How do you feel now? Yi Qinghan immediately asked when he saw the three of them wake up. Fan Yin stretched her body, her lazy expression was very charming, and her figure was clearly visible. She opened her blurry eyes and asked painfully, You bastard, you've caused me so much trouble. How long have I been unconscious? Yi Qinghan smiled and said, It's only been 10 days, but I gained the friendship of Lord Blue Emperor Wan and also obtained 2 fire worms' inner cores. It was worth it. You little bastard, it was worth it. The 3 of us were almost killed by you. Zhang Yingshi smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan shrugged and smiled flatteringly, Everyone, don't be angry. 1,000 heavenly sacred stones per person. That should be enough to heal your broken hearts, right? 1,000 heavenly sacred stones was enough to invite the strongest eternal saint of a holy land to act more than 10 times, let alone the 3 of them. Thus, Zhang Yingshi and the Son of Battle had nothing to say. Only Fan Yin did not hold back and scolded Yi Qinghan. You idiot, next time you risk your life for resources, I'll kill you with a single punch. Don't drag us down with you. Fan Yin raised her fist and threatened. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. The progeny of war and Zhang Yingshi stretched their bodies and stood up. They had recovered 90% of their divine energy, but their souls were still exhausted. At this moment, the Blue Emperor Wan spoke up. Since you've recovered, then leave. There's no more debt between us. Yi Qinghan bowed respectfully and replied, Thank you, Lord Luan, for taking me in for so many days. I still owe you. If there is a chance, I will definitely repay you. I will take my leave now. The Blue Emperor Wan's eyes stared at Yi Qinghan. Finally, it warned, Human, it's best if you don't swallow the fire hornless core at this time. The fire poison and fire essence within the fire hornless core will instantly kill you. If you want to swallow the fire hornless core, wait until your cultivation reaches the upper realm. Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. The Blue Emperor Luan's warning was not just for show. He had wanted to wait for the three of them to wake up before swallowing one of their inner elixirs, but it seemed like he was overthinking. "Thank you, Lord Luan, for your reminder. I understand," Yi Qinghan said seriously. The Blue Emperor Luan pondered for a moment and reminded, "If you want to swallow the fire hornless core earlier, there is another way. That is to kill a top-grade water-type saint beast and take its water-type inner elixir. Then, you will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. It will allow your cultivation to take another step forward." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Fighting a top-grade water-type saint beast in the sea was tantamount to suicide. The four of them retreated, leaving the Blue Emperor Luan standing in the air, watching them leave. Yi Qinghan, Fan Yin, and the others walked in the mountains in a low-key manner, continuing to search for treasures and herbs. However, they still did not find any immortal herbs. The most important reason for coming to Coiling Dragon Island was to find immortal herbs. The gold-devouring toad, divine bird, and little money grubber were all free to search for treasures. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The startwining vines, countless vines stretched out endlessly, escorting the divine bird and little money grubber. It was even more worried about their safety than Yi Qinghan. The little divine bird was relatively lazy. Its little claws tightly clutched onto Yi Qinghan's Daoist robes. It lay on all fours, drowsy. The four of them entered the depths of the island. About half a day later, the startwining vine quickly responded. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He smiled wickedly and said, "We found 2 upper-level blood-robed guards. It's a good opportunity to find out Xia Jiulong's arrangements and how many people he brought." Zhang Yingshi nodded. He thought for a moment and said, "The upper-level blood-robed guards are extremely vigilant. I'm afraid our position will be exposed before we even get close. We have to be careful." The four of them discussed and decided that Zhang Yingshi and the Son of Battle would team up, while Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan would team up. 2 against 1, they would launch a sneak attack. The four of them charged towards the north at an extremely fast speed. They hid within the mountain range and retracted their auras as they got closer and closer to the 2 blood-robed guards. The 2 powerful blood-robed guards were also extremely careful. They advanced step by step as they searched for Yi Qinghan's position. However, they didn't expect that Yi Qinghan's eyes were already not too far away from them. The startwining vine was like an ordinary vine wrapped around a mountain, overlooking them. Their every move was seen by Yi Qinghan. The distance between the 2 sides was less than 1,000 meters. Yi Qinghan had them under his control, but they had no idea. Whoosh! Whoosh! The four of them charged forward once more. They could clearly see with the naked eye that they were moving along the mountain valley's walls. Yi Qinghan whispered, "Let's pincer them from both sides and subdue them as quickly as possible. We must not give them any time to transmit a signal." The four of them exchanged glances. Yi Qinghan headed towards the valley's entrance, the Son of Battle moved towards the valley's exit, Fan Yin remained in place, and Zhang Yingshi moved towards the opposite valley. They were surrounded on all sides. They moved slowly, not daring to be careless. Whoosh! The four of them took their positions. Yi Qinghan gripped the gravity frenzy. 3 silver needles appeared in Zhang Yingshi's hands, Fan Yin's string thread wrapped around his fingers, and the Son of Battle's scimitar shone brightly in the sunlight. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan moved, slashing his scimitar at one of the upper-level experts. Fan Yin swooped down from the sky, the string thread heading straight for the upper-level expert's throat. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's scimitar cut through the entire valley. It swept through everything, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the blood-robed guard. The blood-robed guard was shocked. He hurriedly pulled out his sword to block, but how could his upper-level sacred artifact resist the gravity frenzy, which was an eternal sacred artifact? His divine sword was cut in half, and the gravity frenzy tore through his defenses. Meanwhile, Fan Yin's string thread wrapped around his throat. Whoosh! The string thread cut through his throat, and the gravity frenzy tore through his abdomen. An expert of a generation was instantly split into three. On the other side, the Son of Battle and Zhang Yingshi attacked at the same time. The Son of Battle's scimitar pierced through the blood-robed guard's armor, but the blood-robed guard's divine sword pierced through his shoulder blade. Meanwhile, Zhang Yingshi's 3 silver needles pierced the blood-robed guard's sea of consciousness, completely restraining him. In the blink of an eye, one of the blood-robed guards was dead and the other was injured. Zhang Yingshi controlled the injured blood-robed guard's soul and forcefully devoured his memories. He quickly found the memories of this operation. They have around 300 upper-level experts. Half of them are blood-robed guards, and there are also bounty hunters, the Holy Empire's 10 great divine generals, Xian Xiu, and Xia Jiulong. However, they took the blame for us twice and lost around 100 of them. Now, there are less than 200 left. Zhang Yingshi's expression changed slightly. There are still over 70 blood-robed guards scattered in groups of 2. They're currently searching for us. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth and snorted. Since they've split up, they're giving us a chance. As long as we find these 70 blood-robed guards, they'll be nothing more than food. With the 4 of us working together, killing them will be a piece of cake. That's right. If we kill all the blood-robed guards, their losses won't be small, Fan Yin said excitedly. Zhang Yingshi smiled bitterly. This time, we've really offended the Holy Empire. The Son of Battle shrugged. The Holy Empire can't take revenge on us for such a shady matter. Chapter 2076. In the depths of the island, Yi Qinghan's group of 4 searched everywhere for the blood-robed guards, not even bothering to look for immortal herbs and materials. They killed the blood-robed guards on sight. The 4 of them worked together to kill 2 upper-realm blood-robed guards, but it was not easy. Every step they took was frightening. If they were careless, both sides would suffer. The war progeny was injured in the first battle. However, his injuries were not serious, and he recovered quickly after using immortal herbs. The 4 of them grew more experienced, and the killing became easier. Their speed and secret techniques were much higher than the blood-robed guards. They were also faster, so the blood-robed guards could not retaliate. 3 days later, the 4 of them killed 6 groups of 12 blood-robed guards, a total of 73 upper-realm experts. They had lost so many in one go. However, Xia Jiulong did not know about it. Otherwise, he would definitely go berserk. The start-whining vine, the divine bird, the multicolored snake, and the other divine pets worked together with the intelligent creatures on the island to search for the blood-robed guards. Their positions were quickly exposed to Yi Qinghan. Under the guidance of the star-twisting vine, Yi Qinghan and the other 3 experts attacked wherever they were directed. They didn't hold back at all as they killed and plundered their treasures. Wealth and resources rolled in. These upper-level cultivators definitely had a lot of resources in their storage rings, and the 4 of them split them equally. On the 10th day, half of the blood-robed guards were killed. Their numbers dwindled, attracting the attention of the other blood-robed guards. They continuously sent messages, but many of them did not receive any replies. This time, the blood-robed guards actually started to retreat. How could Yi Qinghan give them the chance to retreat? He continuously killed the blood-robed guards. This time, he did not hold back. He did not even care if they would send a message before they died. Half a month later, less than 13 of the 73 blood-robed guards remained. They had suffered heavy losses. The 13 blood-robed guards retreated together. When they tried to send a message to the other blood-robed guards, they received no reply. It's over. The other blood-robed guards might have met with misfortune. One of the older blood-robed guards, who was more experienced, saw through the clues and warned in a deep voice. How could the four of them kill so many Dao brothers? Could it be that all of them have broken through to the upper level? A burly man roared furiously. Sai, you're still young and don't understand Zhang Yingshi. Back then, she was a top-notch genius and could be considered a true disciple of the older generation. Her strength was far superior to Fan Yin's, and she was also in the upper level. If she wanted to kill the blood guards in the upper level, with the help of a legendary expert, it would be a piece of cake. The older blood strike guard expert shook his head. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin. Which one of them is easy to deal with? Yi Qinghan fought the crown prince a few times and did not die. I don't need to explain his strength. As for Fan Yin, she is only second to the crown prince at the legendary stage. Now, with the support of the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe and the strings as an attack, it's very easy for them to fight 4 against 2. What should we do? We still haven't found any traces of Yi Qinghan, yet we've already lost 60 lives. If we split up again, I'm afraid we'll all be wiped out. Everyone looked at the old blood strike guard expert, hoping he could come up with some ideas. Let's retreat and ask His Highness for help. Half a day ago, Yi Qinghan had already found out that the remaining blood strike guards had all gathered together. He had specially returned to the Azure Emperor One's nest and asked it to personally take action. The Azure Emperor One had originally been unwilling to take action, but since Yi Qinghan had saved it once, it was too embarrassed to refuse. In the end, it had taken action. The 4 experts and the Azure Emperor One pounced on the group of blood strike guards. How powerful was the Azure Emperor One? In the blink of an eye, the Azure Emperor One had pounced into the crowd. Azure light covered the sky and covered the earth, directly disrupting the formation of the experts. Its long beak pierced through the defenses, killing a blood strike guard and knocking the rest away. Boom! Yi Qinghan charged into the crowd with his saber. His aura was like a rainbow as he swept through the crowd, forcibly disrupting their formation. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi took advantage of the chaos to kill, while the Son of Combat supported them from the outside, delaying the blood strike guards who were preparing to flee. Roar! Screech! The Azure Emperor One swept through the crowd, instantly killing 4 experts. Even their flesh and souls were devoured. Of the 13 experts, 7 had died in the blink of an eye. The remaining 6 were all seriously injured, but they were still fighting like cornered beasts. After one of them was killed by Yi Qinghan, the others were no longer in the mood to continue fighting. They prepared to charge into the distance. Boom! The 4 great martial artists and the Verdant Emperor One seized the air and attacked. The Verdant Emperor One's speed was extremely fast, far surpassing the other upper-level martial artists. In the blink of an eye, it had killed another 2 of the upper-level martial artists. The remaining 4 were all held back by the 4 great martial artists. After the Azure Emperor One descended from the sky, it casually finished off the upper-level expert who was fighting against the Son of Combat. Yi Qinghan, don't come looking for me if you have any problems in the future. Otherwise, I won't be polite. The Azure Emperor One tossed out these words, then soared into the sky and disappeared without a trace. Yi Qinghan grinned coldly. He continuously slashed with his saber, smashing the upper-level expert until he was forced to retreat. The Son of Combat assisted from behind, slashing his saber into the upper-level expert's back and tearing his body apart. Ah, the upper-level expert's blood-curdling screams could be heard for hundreds of miles. He had no chance to escape, so he could only charge toward Yi Qinghan, hoping to complete his mission. Yi Qinghan was wearing a Taoist robe, so no matter how hard he tried to stab him, he was unable to pierce through Yi Qinghan's defenses. Instead, Yi Qinghan's head exploded with a single punch. There were only 2 blood-robed guards left. One of them was the elder. He kept pestering Zhang Yingshi and said in a low voice, "Headmaster Zhang, you shouldn't have interfered in this matter. If you retreat now, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of His Highness." The sword in Zhang Yingshi's hand was like a swimming snake. It was extremely powerful, suppressing the elder until he could not resist. A disdainful sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said indifferently, "What I need is not Xia Jiulong's appreciation, but an immortal pill." Die! Roar! Whoosh! At that moment, Yi Qinghan attacked from the side. He joined forces with Zhang Yingshi to encircle the strongest upper-level expert. With Yi Qinghan's support, fear appeared in the elder's eyes. He wanted to escape, but he did not have the chance. He wanted to fight, but he did not have the strength to do so. The other blood-robed guard had been unable to escape because of Fan Yin. Now that the Son of War had charged into the battle, after a long battle, the blood-robed guard's neck was entangled by the Son of War's blade. The blood-robed guard died on the spot. "Let's end this quickly." Yi Qinghan shouted at Fan Yin and the Son of War. Whoosh! Boom! The four experts encircled the strongest blood-robed guard at the same time. Sabers and swords flashed, and red lines cut through space and time. A moment later, the blood-robed guard was killed. Take the storage rings. Don't leave the upper-level holy artifact behind. Take them all. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the four quickly took the storage rings and divine weapons. In the blink of an eye, they fled into the depths of the mountains. At that moment, Xia Jiulong rushed over from afar with experts. When he arrived, he was completely stunned. The ground was littered with corpses. The corpses of the 13 blood-robed guards were badly damaged. He tried to contact the other blood-robed guards, but unfortunately, not a single one replied. 73 blood-robed guards had been completely annihilated. This blow caused Xia Jiulong's heart to burn with rage. He could no longer remain calm. Chapter 2077. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thump thump thump. The Holy Empire's 10 divine generals and Xian Xiu could clearly hear Xia Jiulong's breathing and heartbeat. It was obvious that he could no longer control himself. Xia Jiulong's handsome face was cold, and the cold flames in his eyes were almost solid. He looked into the distance, and he was so angry that he laughed, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. Ha ha ha. Yi Qinghan. Such an enemy is really interesting. Xia Jiulong's words were filled with despair and anger. To be honest, there were so many experts that he couldn't even kill himself. However, they were all slaughtered by 4 ants in his eyes. Your Highness, please calm down. Xian Xiu hurriedly reminded him. Xia Jiulong raised his eyebrows and looked coldly at Xian Xiu. Calm down. What do you have to calm me down? Yi Qinghan's head or Fan Yin's head? Beads of sweat appeared on Xian Xiu's forehead as he bowed. At this moment, he understood that Xia Jiulong was extremely angry. If he angered him, he would be dead for sure. Your Highness, it's time for us to come up with a plan. A flawless plan. Let Yi Qinghan walk right into our trap. Only then will we be able to strangle him to death, said the mystic respectfully. At this moment, one of the 10 divine generals, Divine General Luo Fei, walked up and cupped his fists. Your Highness, being angry at this time won't change anything. Instead, you will lose your composure. Fellow Taoist Xian Xiu is right. We can't just blindly attack him. There are dangers everywhere on this huge island. If we chase after him, it's very likely that we'll help him take the blame and provoke a powerful sacred beast. Instead of taking the initiative to attack, it's better to wait for him. Divine General Luo Fei was a top expert of the older generation and had once fought with the 9 prefecture lords. Right now, apart from the 9 prefecture lords, the 10 divine generals were the strongest in the Holy Empire. Even the Holy Empire's emperor had to give them some face, let alone the leader of the 10 divine generals, Luo Fei. Xia Jiulong didn't dare to offend the 10 great divine generals. If it wasn't for the Cloud Dragon Sage asking the 10 great divine generals for help, he wouldn't have been able to command the 10 great divine generals by himself. So when Luo Fei spoke, he finally calmed down. Hiss. Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and exhaled. He stared at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, let's think of a way together. Whoever can think of a way to lure Yi Qinghan into our trap will be rewarded handsomely." Everyone was silent for a long time. No one spoke. It was almost impossible to trick the 4 legendary experts. Which legendary expert was not a smart expert? Xian Xiu did not dare to speak carelessly. If he came up with a bad idea now, it was very likely that he would anger Xia Zhilong. Luo Fei's face was full of vigor. His masculine aura radiated in all directions. His face was dignified and wise. To be able to reach where he was today, he not only relied on his talent, but also his extraordinary intelligence. What advantages does this Yi Qinghan have? Luo Fei asked in a deep voice. Xia Zhilong frowned and looked at Luo Fei. Puzzled, he asked, "Divine General Luo Fei, do you mean?" Luo Fei said indifferently, "You can't play your cards according to the rules for this kind of person. You need to rely on his strength. He will charge at us without any fear. Only then can we lure him into our trap. Otherwise, he will only fight with us. We can't just chase after him on this huge island. After all, it's too dangerous. Moreover, we have a lot of people, so we need to be careful." Xia Zhilong was enlightened. He immediately bowed and said, "The older, the wiser. I'm impressed." Xian Xiu's eyes flashed as he immediately said, "Divine General Luo Fei's words have enlightened me. Yi Qinghan has a gold-devouring toad and a divine bird that specializes in finding numinous treasures and sacred herbs. Is this considered his advantage?" "Yes." Divine General Luo Fei replied without hesitation. "Then what do you mean, Divine General?" Xia Zhilong's eyes lit up as though he had found a ray of hope. "Now, let's see what the 4 of them lack the most." Divine General Luo Fei clenched his fists as the corners of his mouth curled up. He said firmly, "We can't catch the wolf without risking the child. Now, we will place the item that attracts them at a place they will definitely pass through. Then, we will surround this place and only leave them an opening. Once they enter the encirclement, we will quickly seal them off. Let's see where they can escape to." Xia Zhilong fell silent for a moment. He naturally knew what Yi Qinghan's goal was. His goal was clearly the immortal herb, but he didn't. Xia Zhilong pondered for a long time before taking out an item from his storage ring. It was a pure green jade with a blood-red object wrapped within. He looked at the item in his hand and hesitated for a long time. However, in order to kill Yi Qinghan, he gritted his teeth and made the decision. "This is half a piece of sacred blood, the essence of an eternal saint. I refuse to believe that Yi Qinghan won't fall for it," said Xia Zhilong coldly. Divine General Luo Fei was alarmed as he hurriedly reminded him, "Let's use this as bait. Be careful that it doesn't return." "It's fine. As long as we surround the place he will definitely pass through, he won't be able to escape from my grasp," said Xia Zhilong confidently. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and the others were all smiles. They should be satisfied with killing more than 70 blood strike guards in one go. This was the Holy Empire's worst loss in recent years. "Do you think that idiot Xia Zhilong will go crazy?" Fan Yin asked, taking pleasure in Xia Zhilong's misfortune. The son of war and Zhang Yingshi both smiled, not knowing how to answer. However, Yi Qinghan shook his head and said with certainty, "No, even if he was very angry at that time, as long as Xian Xiu and the others remind him, he should know what to do. If he goes crazy now, we will seize the opportunity to defeat them one by one." Zhang Yingshi looked at Yi Qinghan and asked curiously, "Then what will happen to him now?" Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, rubbing his fingers as he looked at the endless islands filled with danger. After a moment of silence, he said indifferently, "They still have the advantage in terms of numbers and strength. If I were him, I wouldn't split up. Instead, I would think of a way to lure them into a trap. I would find a place where the ferocious beasts wouldn't interfere and set up a trap. Treacherous. Fan Yin snorted. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He smiled and replied, "This isn't treachery, this is wisdom. As the saying goes, all is fair in war. If we all relied on our fists, how could there be a country or a holy land in this world? We would just roam the pugilistic world alone." The divine bird immediately laughed smugly and said, "Boss, I agree with you. This divine bird is a wise almighty. I can toy with a so-called prince like Xia Jiulong like a child. The only idea he can think of is to use a supreme treasure to tempt you, then let you take the risk to enter a trap to obtain the treasure. Finally, he will close the door and beat the dogs. If I were him, I wouldn't do that." Humph, Fan Yin and the others snorted to express their dissatisfaction. However, Yi Qinghan asked, "If you were him, what would you do?" The divine bird said proudly, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend. If I were him, I would join forces with the wise divine beast. The 8 ferocious beasts on that mountain are the best targets to join forces with. TSK, think about how we destroyed their nest. If Xia Jiulong knew how to go back and find those 8 ferocious beasts, even with the help of Lord Luan, we would still end up dead." Yi Qinghan and the others looked at the divine bird, their backs breaking out in cold sweat. Fortunately, this bastard was a friend. If it were an enemy, they would really be played to death. Chapter 2078. Coiling Dragon Island spanned from north to south. There were forests, valleys, tall mountains, and flowing rivers. Countless ferocious beasts occupied the island, and birds looked down from the sky. Mountain ranges that looked like crouching dragons surrounded the island, forming a place where divine dragons gathered. There was actually a palace that spanned across time and space and had been preserved to this day. The palace still retained a bit of the eternal suppression. Its aura was monstrous, crushing the sky. The blue sky and white clouds pressed down on the top of the palace. Because this was where the dragon vein was, even ferocious beasts did not dare to stay here. The identity of this place was obvious. It was definitely the place where the eternal saint resided. Therefore, after disappearing for so many years, even the powerful holy beasts did not dare to stay here for long. Xia Jiulong had actually found this place under the protection of the 10 divine generals and the bounty hunters. Divine General Luo Fei clapped his hands and said excitedly, "This is definitely a treasure land. The suppression here can completely conceal our auras. There are no flaws. As long as they find this place, they will definitely come in to explore. We can catch them all in one fell swoop." Xia Jiulong's eyes shone brightly as he said excitedly, "This is the ruins of the Eternal Saint's palace. There must be many treasures inside." Luo Fei nodded and said, "For the time being, don't look for the treasures here. Lure Yi Qinghan and the others here and kill them. The treasures here will belong to the fated ones." Many bounty hunters were extremely excited. They were blinded by the benefits. In order to fully attract Yi Qinghan and the others, Xia Jiulong took out the sacred blood again and placed it behind the throne in the central hall. "Everyone, find your positions. Don't leave any traces. When Yi Qinghan obtains the sacred blood, when he is the most excited and weakest, we will attack together and kill him in one fell swoop. At that time, we will reward you according to your contributions," Xia Jiulong said in a low voice. "Yes. Thank you for your appreciation, Your Highness." Many upper realm experts bowed and retreated, quickly hiding in the depths of the palace. There was no aura at all. Even if there was, it was covered by the eternal suppression. Xian Xiu and the 10 divine generals hid in the halls around the central hall. Xia Jiulong hid in the central hall, constantly watching the back of the saint's throne. He was also afraid that the sacred blood would not return. Looking from the outside, it had been many years since anyone had come to the ruins of the Eternal Palace. Thorns and weeds were everywhere, covering the roads. The sacred herbs in the garden had been growing for countless years, as if they were about to take form and soar into the sky. Every stalk of sacred herb was priceless in the outside world. Spiritual chi assailed their nostrils, and this was a place where the dragon vein was visible. Not to mention the divine bird, even Yi Qinghan and company could find this place with their eyes. However, Yi Qinghan, Fan Yin, and the others did not set off immediately. Instead, they were trying to figure out how to break Xia Jiulong's trap. We don't know where Xia Jiulong and the others have set up traps. As long as we can't be sure, any place with treasures could be where Xia Jiulong and the others have set up traps. They also have so many bounty hunters, 10 divine generals, Xian Xiu, and Xia Jiulong himself. Even if we have 40 people, we might not be able to withstand the combined forces of more than 100 experts, let alone 4 people. Therefore, we can't take the risk. Yi Qinghan sat on a rock and looked at the other 3 experts, discussing what to do next. Since Xia Jiulong wants to set up a trap, it's impossible for us to detect its location. The next step is very tricky. Zhang Yingshi looked into the depths and sighed. They had not found the immortal herb yet, so this mission was a failure. The son of war racked his brains but could not think of a good solution. He said helplessly, "We can't keep asking the Azure Emperor Huan for help, right?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "The Azure Emperor Huan's strength is limited. 30 upper realm experts are enough to crush it. The remaining people can easily destroy us. If there's no other way, let's go back." "We can't risk our lives," Fan Yin suggested. Clearly, the son of war and Zhang Yingshi were unwilling to leave just like that. They wanted to continue searching for the immortal herb. At this moment, the divine bird family of 3 was discussing. "Dad, if your boss is an idiot, then are his friends idiots as well? Why do they have to jump into the trap? Can't they go straight into the mystic realm through the plains?" the little divine bird asked in surprise. The little money grubber patted the little divine bird's head and sighed. "Child, you're still young. You don't understand that there's a saying among humans, birds of a feather flock together. Everyone is fools in a nest. If your boss is a fool, then the whole world is a fool. Now, even your dad is a fool. Our family depends on you." The divine bird, Yi Qinghan, Fan Yin came to a sudden realization. "That's right. You highly intelligent creatures, why do we have to find out where Xia Jiulong's immortal realm trap is? Can't we avoid it?" The son of war nodded in agreement. "That's right. I don't believe that Xia Jiulong would place his trap on a vast plain. Everything can be seen through at a glance. Let's go through the plain and enter the mystic realm first." Zhang Yingshi smiled. He looked at Yi Qinghan's speechless expression and couldn't help but laugh. Yi Qinghan scratched the back of his head and looked at the little divine bird's despicable expression. He couldn't help but feel speechless. "Sigh, let's go through the plain. My mind has become fixed. I've always wanted to compete with Xia Jiulong. Instead, I've walked into a dead end." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. In the end, they didn't manage to come to a conclusion. They were all enlightened by this palm-sized divine bird. The divine bird was also speechless. It was also thinking about how to compete with Xia Jiulong, but it didn't think to take a detour and enter the mystic realm directly. It looked at its precious child again and really wanted to send it flying with a slap. However, it didn't dare. Otherwise, the little money grubber would fight it to the death. The 4 of them shook their heads and rushed toward the plains in the east. The plains were vast and boundless. The 4 of them approached the seaside and sped along the seaside toward the north. Xia Jiulong and the others were waiting for Yi Qinghan. They were confident that Yi Qinghan would definitely arrive here. However, they didn't expect to wait day after day. Even after waiting for a month, they still didn't see him. Xia Jiulong was getting a little anxious. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong slowly walked out of the palace. He carefully left the palace and looked into the distance. There was no sign of Yi Qinghan. This bastard, why is he always going against me? Xia Jiulong said angrily to himself. Luo Fei quickly rushed over and looked into the distance. He reminded in a low voice, a little impatience spoils a great plan. Your Highness, let's wait a little longer. They might be delayed by other treasures. Phew, Xia Jiulong exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and slowly returned to the palace to continue waiting. At this time, Yi Qinghan, Fan Yin, and the others arrived in the northeast. The thorns here were already soaring into the sky like ancient trees. The vines intertwined and completely blocked the way. They didn't even know where the entrance to the mystic realm was. The four of them looked into the distance and searched for the entrance. Boom boom boom. The sea roared. The 100-meter-tall waves slapped the sky. It was deafening and made one's blood boil. How many years has it been since someone came here? Yi Qinghan exclaimed. Chapter 2079. There were high mountains and high ridges, and the sea slapped the sky. The atmosphere was terrifying. Yi Qinghan and the others stood on a high ground, looking down at the thorny land. It was difficult to find the entrance to the secret land. There was not even a path, and it was difficult to move. There was a primitive smell everywhere. The smell of trees, leaves, and the rotten smell of beast bones mixed in with the primitive smell was not unpleasant. Instead, there was a faint fragrance. The spirit chi of heaven and earth seemed to be gathered here. This was definitely the sacred land of the Holy Land. The spirit chi of the endless sea was gathered here. The place where the dragon heads gather is close to the dragon vein, and the endless sea is rolling. The spirit chi here is probably richer than in the sacred land of the other holy lands. Fan Yin exclaimed. Yi Qinghan was very curious and asked, why don't the holy lords of the other holy lands want to station here and create a new world? Humph, Zhang Yingshi and the others snorted and said lightly, it's not that they don't want to come, but they don't dare to. This place is very evil, especially for experts at the level of the Eternal Saint. The higher the cultivation, the more evil it is. Sometimes, you have to be superstitious. Fan Yin nodded and agreed, didn't I tell you before? The heavenly demon cult's cult leader disappeared here. No one knew if he was alive or dead. My old man came to check in person, but in the end, he couldn't find him and left in a hurry. He didn't want to stay at all. He told me personally that this place is very evil, and that I shouldn't come if I can. Ahem, Yi Qinghan smiled and said, I still want to take this place. At this time, even the son of war snorted at him. Yi Qinghan's courage was not ordinary. If it was really a place with good feng shui, would it be his turn to occupy it? The divine bird said seriously, I'm a nostalgic person. I was optimistic about the Shrouding Sky secret land from the beginning, so I don't care about this place. We'll just take the Shrouding Sky secret land. Zhang Yingshi retorted speechlessly, don't even think about the 10 great secret lands. That is the common territory of all the holy lands. You want to compete with 22 holy lands for territory? Bones can take you down one by one. That's not necessarily true. We, the proud sect, need a piece of land. When I become an eternal sage, they won't give it to me. I can beat them until they agree. I'm a peace-loving person, but if you anger me, no one will have an easy time. Yi Qinghan snorted. Fan Yin rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, you declared war on the entire great world. Don't expect us to help you. The old man won't help you either. Yi Qinghan shrugged his shoulders and proudly said, we have someone behind us, a great sage. When the time comes, even if the people of the Oshi Holy Land don't help us, for the sake of your sage, they should remain neutral. Even if the heavenly reaching church doesn't help us, they will at least remain neutral. I believe that Sir Sage Chess Venerable will also remain neutral. Even if Wuxian and I become eternal sages, we will not necessarily be afraid of the Holy Empire. The Son of War took a deep breath. He knew that Lin Wuxian's strength was not ordinary. He had a good relationship with Yi Qinghan. They had 2 eternal sages and a great sage behind them. If they wanted to snatch a secret realm as their base camp, few people would dare to offend them. Your sage is really going to marry Lin Wuxian? Fan Yin was a little incredulous. This kind of unequal marriage was almost impossible. Yi Qinghan nodded and replied faintly, most likely. When this matter is over, I will go back and give them a deposit. Fan Yin shrugged. This kind of marriage was unprecedented. He was not optimistic about it. Yi Qinghan said no more. He looked into the depths and asked, "You know this place? Where is the entrance to the Coiling Dragon's secret realm?" "It's nearby, but I don't know why the light at the entrance disappeared." "Was it blocked by someone?" The Son of War frowned. He had prepared for a long time to come to the Coiling Dragon's secret realm and was most familiar with this place. "It shouldn't be. Let's cut these thorns first." "Maybe there's another world," Zhang Yingshi suggested. The 4 of them waved their swords and cut the grass. The thorns were turned into powder. Only some ancient trees with special materials were left in place. 2 hours later, the land within 1,000 miles of this place was flattened. The thorns were all gone. The mountain range circled the sea. Standing above the mountain range, one could overlook the endless sea. The waves were in front of them, and the salty seawater was close at hand. The light at the entrance was indeed restrained by someone. It seemed to be to prevent people from entering this place by mistake. Boom! Yi Qinghan pierced the mountain range with his sword and plunged it into the mountain. He raised his hands from both sides and mobilized the power of the mountains and rivers to gather in his palms. He crossed his palms in front of his chest and pulled them down fiercely. A roar shook 1,000 miles. It was like a dragon's roar. The entire sea level sank more than 10 meters, and the impact spread hundreds of miles away. Roar! The sound waves with rolling divine power hit the void. All illusions were penetrated and revealed in front of the eyes. The visual impact was extremely shocking. Whoosh! A beam of light shot up into the sky and into the clouds. The beam of light wasn't very big. It was only about 1,000 feet in radius. It was like a mysterious cave. The entrance was revealed, and it was sparkling and magnificent. Although this sound didn't have a soul attack, the 3 of them were shaken until their faces were numb and pale. They couldn't help but take a few steps back. Their chests were heavy, and their ears were buzzing. Yi Qinghan stopped and looked at the entrance. He waved his hand and pulled it up. The Taoist robe supported his body, and the transparent eternal glove covered his body. He was in his peak state. He faced the sea, and his black hair fluttered. This indifference, aura, and temperament made a veteran legendary expert like the Son of War feel inferior. Fan Yin looked at Yi Qinghan's vigorous side profile, and a strange expression appeared in his eyes. He looked a little dazed, and it took him a while to react. Xia Jiulong is different from you. He was nurtured. I feel inferior. No matter how much I nurture him, I will still lose to you. The Son of War sighed. Among the younger generation, perhaps only you can fight against Xia Jiulong. No wonder you attract so many women. If I were a few 100,000 years younger, I might also be infatuated with you. Zhang Yingshi sighed. Fan Yin snorted. What are you showing off for? Isn't it just a slightly stronger body? Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and replied, it's simple and effective. Why not? I'm not showing off on purpose. Let's go in. If we're lucky, we'll leave immediately after we get the immortal medicine. I feel that it's best not to stay here for too long. Whoosh! Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the others all activated their Taoist robes and armor. They were in their peak state. This was the most dangerous coiling dragon mystic realm. They could die here if they weren't careful. Yi Qinghan stepped into the mystic realm's entrance. He waved his hand and cracked the enchantment. He stared straight ahead and clenched his fists. He was afraid that something unexpected would happen. Not good. No one had come in here for a long time, so there were no ferocious beasts guarding the entrance. There was no danger. Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the Son of War followed closely behind. After stepping into the mystic realm, spiritual energy rushed into their bodies. They didn't need to circulate it themselves. It automatically turned into divine power to replenish their losses. This place is too perfect. Looking at the blue sky, white clouds, and the spiritual liquid that had condensed into a solid substance, the four of them exclaimed in unison. Chapter 2080. It was a perfect world. As far as the eye could see, there were peach blossoms floating in the air. Some of the immortal peaches were plump and tender, making one drool just by looking at them. The blue sky pressed down on the mountain range. The goshawk was galloping in the sky as if it was patrolling its own territory. The powerful bird was actually not inferior to the 8 ferocious beasts in the previous mountain. However, it was only a single bird, so it could not affect the 4 of them. Yi Qinghan and the others did not make a scene. Instead, they led the group into the dense forest. The peach blossoms floating above their heads were indescribably beautiful. This peach. Fan Yin muttered to herself in shock, not knowing how to describe it. Zhang Yingshi was experienced and knowledgeable. He quickly reacted and said in a deep voice, "This is a variant of the supreme immortal peach. It should be because the immortal peach ripened and no one plucked it, so it fell and sprouted continuously. That's why there are so many immortal peach trees here. However, their grade is far inferior to the supreme immortal peach. I've seen this fruit before. A variant of this age is worth about 1 billion faith coins in the outside world." Fan Yin exclaimed, "The fatal wound of an upper-level cultivator, it can instantly revitalize the body and bring the dead back to life. Ah, there are so many of them. We're rich." A supreme immortal peach tree had been developing for countless years. Who knew how many variant immortal peach trees there were? Looking around, there was a single tree 100 meters tall, and each one was several zhang thick. The roots were intertwined and the branches were luxuriant. How could this be just priceless? Yi Qinghan was trembling with excitement. He hurriedly asked, "Senior sister, the old man gave me that storage ring. Can I transplant them?" Fan Yin nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at rice. "No, but you have the celestial sacred stone. The immortal peach trees will definitely grow. However, you can't transplant the supreme immortal peach tree, and we can't find it either. Because it's already exceedingly good fortune, it can fly in the sky and burrow into the earth. Even the old man can't find it. Even if he can find it, he'll only need 1 immortal peach at most. It's impossible to capture it. A single immortal peach tree had exceedingly good fortune. Its strength was comparable to that of a great sage. Killing sages was as easy as nodding its head. A single branch could kill someone from 1,000 li away. Gulp. Even the divine bird was swallowing hard. Yi Qinghan swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva. With a wave of his hand, he opened his storage ring and absorbed the spiritual energy in the area. The spiritual energy tumbled and surged into the storage ring. The storage ring was equivalent to a small domain that could hold a living person. Yi Qinghan placed the 10,000 heavenly spirit sacred stones in a corner of the storage ring. He set up a huge array and actively absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to change the soil and air in the storage ring. An hour later, Yi Qinghan felt that the spiritual qi in the storage ring was almost full. Using his will, he exhausted his spiritual qi and instantly activated the storage ring. He actually trapped a part of the world inside the storage ring. The hundreds of immortal peach trees and the soil were all moved away. Poof! The old man's storage ring was not something that an ant like Yi Qinghan could easily activate, not to mention that it was used to take away a large number of immortal peach trees. Yi Qinghan was so tired that he coughed up blood on the spot. His entire body was weak and he fell to the ground in exhaustion. However, he was still grinning evilly. Screech! The powerful goshawk roared angrily. Seeing that the immortal peach tree that it had guarded for countless years had been taken away, it charged directly at Yi Qinghan and the others. Whoosh! 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 Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi took the initiative to meet the attack. They stirred up mountains and rivers and shattered the void. They directly sent the goshawk flying. The two pursued the goshawk aggressively. Only then did the goshawk realize that these people were not to be trifled with and fled in panic. The son of war stood guard beside Yi Qinghan. He was extremely vigilant and did not dare to be careless. Yi Qinghan quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and took out an immortal peach tree from the storage ring. Although it was just an immortal peach, it contained a lot of immortal qi and was full of spirituality. It could change a person's body and flaws. In an instant, it could restore his spiritual qi and soul to peak condition. Ha 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 ha, Yi Qinghan laughed wildly and said excitedly, with these immortal peach trees, won't my spiritual qi be inexhaustible? Pa! Fan Yin angrily slapped Yi Qinghan on the back of the head and angrily lectured, you wastrel. These immortal peaches are for you to save lives. They only ripen once every 100,000 years. You bastard, you use one every minute. Do you want to die? Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He turned to look at Fan Yin and found that she was even more aggrieved than he was. Ahem. Little Yi, this is your fault. Although these immortal peaches are not immortal medicines, to us, one immortal peach is equivalent to one life. One life, do you understand? You just ate a life. Zhang Yingshi smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan smiled. He felt that the power in his body was still surging. His spiritual qi was unprecedentedly strong. It almost reached the peak of the middle level. His body was also close to perfection. I couldn't help it. I just wanted to see how useful these immortal peaches were. Yi Qinghan smiled and said. Fan Yin put her hands on her hips and roared like a hag. Did you test it? Yi Qinghan nodded, embarrassed. There were many immortal peach trees and fruits, but not many had ripened. There were only 100 or so, and they were very quick to use. Let's go deeper and look. Perhaps there are more. I don't believe that the supreme immortal peach tree has been here before. Yi Qinghan changed the subject. Fan Yin was too lazy to talk about Yi Qinghan. She angrily walked deeper. Less than 10 miles away, there were still some immortal peach trees that had just sprouted. Yi Qinghan did not let them go. He uprooted them and replanted them. Because there were many sky spirit holy stones in the storage ring, the immortal peaches did not wither after entering the ring. In fact, they were growing better. Swoosh! Swoosh! Yi Qinghan and the others kept going deeper. The deeper they went, the thicker the spirit energy became. But there were no more immortal peach trees. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He used his will to check out the treasures in the storage ring. He excitedly said, there are 342 immortal peach trees. There are 230 mature immortal peach trees. There are 320 mature immortal peach trees. I'll give you 30 each. Are you okay with that? No. We'll split it evenly. Zhang Yingshi and Fan Yin said at the same time. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and spread out his hands, looking like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. 30. Take it or leave it. I don't have any more. I have a family to feed, old and young. At most, I'll give you another 30 every 100,000 years. Fan Yin and the others were speechless. If Yi Qinghan said he was generous, then he was really generous, but if he said he was stingy, then he was really stingy. Cough, cough. Fairies, 30 is quite a lot, the son of war said honestly. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out 30 mature immortal peaches. He gave them to the son of war and said, Brother Zhan, you are the most reasonable. They can take it or leave it. If they don't take it today, they will regret it tomorrow. They will only get 29 immortal peaches. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This kind of man was really rare. They could only reach out and beg him. Yi Qinghan smiled wickedly and placed 30 immortal peaches in their hands. Immortal peach trees. Give me 10 of them when we get back to the big world, Fan Yin said. Zhang Yingshi also asked for them. The son of war was embarrassed, but he looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. He hoped to get a few immortal peach trees. Yi Qinghan was very generous this time. He said quickly, of course. Didn't I just collect some young saplings? Take them back and grow them for 100,000 years. They will grow. Fan Yin. The son of war. Zhang Yingshi. You are so greedy. Fan Yin was angry. She raised her fist and punched Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Chapter 2081. Yi Qinghan's generosity left Fan Yin and the rest speechless. There were so many mutated immortal peach trees, but he only gave each of them 10 saplings. Yi Qinghan laughed heartily. In the end, he promised to give each of them a mature mutated immortal peach. He did not want to spoil their relationship because of this. With a mature mutated immortal peach tree, the son of war and the rest were satisfied. Yi Qinghan looked into the distance and said calmly, let's continue our search. No one has come here for many years. The sacred herbs should be able to take form, and their cultivation should have reached the destiny realm. Fan Yin's eyes flashed with excitement. She said excitedly, let's make this clear. The next time we see a mutated immortal peach tree, the 4 of us have to split it evenly. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly. Of course, even though they were split evenly, there were differences in size. Whether it was mature or not, Yi Qinghan would not be so generous. After all, he was the head of the family. He had to work for the welfare of the Kuang sect. Pride was not important. Filling their stomachs was more important. Fan Yin and Zhang Yingshi did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so treacherous. The son of war did not mind. He relied on Yi Qinghan's luck and opportunity. He could get as much as he wanted. He would not yell at Yi Qinghan like Fan Yin. After all, they were martial siblings and had a good relationship. The son of war and Yi Qinghan were gentlemen. They were not close. The son of war knew when to advance and retreat. He was not too aggressive and did not fuss over every little thing. Otherwise, the team would have broken up long ago. The 4 of them continued to venture deeper. But not long after, the eagle that was beaten away brought back several beasts for revenge. They came from afar with great momentum. Roar! Yi Qinghan transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky. He roared at the beasts. Heaven and earth quieted down instantly. The void distorted, and everything seemed to be frozen. Force. The dragon auras might swept through half of the sky, and actually scared the few powerful flying beasts into retreating in panic. Screech. The goshawk glared angrily at Yi Qinghan, but it refused to leave. It was as if it had gone mad. Its sharp claws tore through the void as it charged toward Yi Qinghan. Roar! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's dragon's tail whip smashed through the sky. The wide area attack made it impossible for the goshawk to escape, and the goshawk was directly smashed into the ground. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan reappeared in his original form. His physical body was extremely holy, and he was bathed in holy light. He waved his hand and grabbed the goshawk's head. He realized that the goshawk's bloodline was much stronger than the god-devouring eagle's, so he directly summoned the god-devouring eagle. Yi Qinghan calmly said, "You're lucky. Devour the blood essence and evolve your own bloodline." The god-devouring eagle was overjoyed. It had not evolved for a long time. Now, it urgently needed the essence of a high-grade bloodline bird to evolve itself. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan actually tore the goshawk apart, causing blood to splatter all over the sky. The god-devouring eagle soared into the sky and devoured all the essence of the blood. Even the essence of the blood didn't escape. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and threw the goshawk's corpse to the god-devouring eagle. The god-devouring eagle opened its mouth and swallowed the corpse. Screech! The blood in the god-devouring eagle's body boiled. It roared towards the sky and flapped its wings, causing the clouds in the sky to collapse. Whoosh! The god-devouring eagle had absorbed a bloodline of a much higher grade than its own. It was rapidly evolving, but it couldn't withstand such a terrifying evolution. It could only turn into a wisp of imprint and rush back into Yi Qinghan's body, borrowing his powerful blood essence to evolve itself. Let's go. Yi Qinghan was as calm as the wind and clouds, as if he had just killed an ant. Fan Yin said, "What a perverted physical body. Whoever dares to go against him is simply courting death." Zhang Yingshi also shook his head. This high-grade goshawk had just gone crazy from anger. Otherwise, it wouldn't compete with Yi Qinghan in strength. The four of them sped through the mountains. The gold-devouring toad's hair stood on end, and it was in a highly excited state. High-grade materials were everywhere, but it was impossible for the four of them to mine this mine. Thus, Yi Qinghan could only give up. The mountains and rivers were boundless and endless. The four of them wantonly rushed into the distance. There were danger zones everywhere. Some terrifying ferocious beasts rested, but it was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Spirit herbs covered the sky and earth, and the spiritual energy was dense. Even as the four of them walked through the mountains, they could feel the divine power in their bodies slowly increasing. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The startwining vine wantonly devoured the endless spirit herbs. The higher-grade sacred medicines were all delivered to Yi Qinghan's hands. The little divine bird and the little money grubber were also looking for high-grade sacred medicines. However, they wouldn't give them to Yi Qinghan. They kept all of them for themselves. Yi Qinghan also wouldn't ask them for them. Yi Qinghan walked very slowly. He searched very carefully. On one hand, he wanted the startwining vine to collect more high-grade sacred medicines. On the other hand, he wanted the startwining vine to evolve. If it could evolve to the middle level, his overall strength would double. If he could nurture the startwining vine to the upper level, then no matter how many people Xia Jiulong brought, they would only be nourishment. The divine bird's main goal was the immortal medicine. If it could find the immortal medicine, it would at least be able to obtain 3 immortal pills. Then, the family of 3 would be settled. Whoosh. The divine bird searched for a long time. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. It pulled on one of the startwining vine's vines and rushed into the distance. A moment later, it stopped in front of a fiery red dragon-shaped sacred medicine, drooling. "Shoo!" The divine bird said cheekily. "Don't tell boss. I'll take care of you in the future." The startwining vine was obedient. It didn't dare to go against the divine bird's will. It allowed the divine bird to take away the precious dragon-shaped sacred medicine. It was almost about to transform into an immortal medicine, but it was hidden away just like that. The star-twining vines protected the divine bird and constantly flattered it. The divine bird naturally wanted to reward it well. It took out a celestial sacred stone and said softly, "I hid some celestial sacred stones. Don't tell boss. If you need them in the future, just ask me. I'll take care of you." "Who told me to be your boss?" The star-twining vine was wild with joy. It savagely swallowed the celestial sacred stone into its vines and rushed into its body. It stored all the energy and prepared to evolve in the future. The divine bird obtained the dragon-shaped sacred medicine. It didn't know what grade it was, so it didn't dare to study it. It was just curious what kind of medicine it was. "Why does this thing look so much like a dragon?" The divine bird looked at the dragon-shaped sacred medicine through the storage ring. It realized that it wasn't dispirited at all. It could actually grow tenaciously without much spiritual chi. It was relying on the celestial sacred stone. The dragon-shaped sacred medicine was emitting a thick red color. It bathed in holy light and wanted to transform and comprehend the great Tao. Once this dragon-shaped sacred medicine transformed, it would be easy for its cultivation to evolve to the great creation realm. The divine bird didn't dare to hesitate. It threw a dozen celestial sacred stones beside the dragon-shaped sacred medicine. Then, it took away all the other celestial sacred stones. There were actually 20 to 30,000 celestial sacred stones in its storage ring. It seemed like it had hidden quite a lot. Just as the divine bird was puzzled, it suddenly felt a faint dragon's aura drifting over from afar. It was very ethereal and almost undetectable. The divine bird looked into the distance in surprise. Its figure flashed and rushed into a cave with the star-twining vine. It realized that there was a faint light in the huge mountain. The pressure was getting stronger and stronger. It extended for 1,000 meters and almost drilled into the ground. There was actually a huge space underground. The divine bird looked at a huge round egg in the space. It was emitting the aura of a heavenly dragon. It didn't know how long it had been here, but the vitality in the egg was still boundless. Damn! An eternal holy dragon's dragon egg? The divine bird swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It wanted to take it for itself. However, it couldn't take away a dragon egg of this level with its storage ring. The star-twining vine wrapped around the divine bird, afraid that it would encounter an accident. The divine bird patted the star-twining vine's vines and quickly said, "Go and inform the boss. As long as this dragon egg hatches, it will be equivalent to having a dragon saint." Chapter 2082. The divine bird was so shocked by the dragon egg that it even forgot about the sacred herb. The dragon-shaped sacred herb was clearly a dragon flame sacred flower. It grew by absorbing the saliva of the eternal holy dragon, which was why its level was so high. It was evolving into an immortal herb. This dragon flame sacred flower meant that there was an eternal holy dragon in this mystic realm. Who knew if it was dead or alive? If it were a normal person, they would have fled long ago. If they provoked an eternal holy dragon, they might not survive even if they fled to a great world. Yi Qinghan received the star-twining vine's notice and quickly rushed to the cave where the divine bird was. Swoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan quickly rushed to the bottom of the cave and saw the dragon egg's boundless vitality. There were some skeletons beside it, but they did not have a trace of luster. With a light touch, they all turned to dust. At that moment, Fan Yin, Zhang Yingshi, and the Son of War rushed down. When they saw Yi Qinghan bending down to touch the bones and the scene of the bones turning to dust, they opened their mouths in shock. Yi Qinghan finally locked his gaze on the dragon egg. There was only one, about half the size of a person. Light flowed as if it wanted to rush out of the eggshell, but it did not have enough energy and could not break out. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and cut open his finger. He wanted to drip blood on it to claim ownership. Fan Yin was shocked and hurriedly pulled Yi Qinghan back. She reprimanded, "Are you courting death? Don't you see all the skeletons around? They were all forcefully claimed ownership. Their vitality has been sucked dry by the dragon egg. Do you want to be killed by it?" Yi Qinghan took out 2 mutated immortal peaches and put one in his mouth. He took out a Holy Spirit stone and said excitedly, "I'm not an ordinary person. It can't swallow my vitality. 2 mutated immortal peaches and a Holy Spirit stone in exchange for a little holy dragon with the eternal holy dragon bloodline. It's worth it." This divine bird agrees. After hundreds of thousands of years, it will become an eternal expert stronger than humans. The divine bird agreed. Zhang Yingshi and company could not persuade Yi Qinghan, so they could only make him claim ownership with his blood. Whoosh! A drop of blood essence dripped into the egg, and a monstrous light burst out from the dragon egg, illuminating the cave as if it was daytime. Through this drop of blood essence, the dragon egg formed a connection with Yi Qinghan. Like a mother and son, it could forcefully absorb Yi Qinghan's godly power to hatch itself. Whoosh! The divine power in Yi Qinghan's body was rapidly disappearing. In the blink of an eye, it was all sucked dry. Crack! Yi Qinghan was about to shatter the immortal peach. The divine power in his body was rapidly recovering, like a funnel that was leaking at both ends. The peach of immortality provided the energy, and the dragon egg swallowed the energy. The light on the surface of his body was sometimes dim, and sometimes divine light flowed. Even the heavenly spirit saint stone in his hand was quickly dimming. No wonder so many people were swallowed by the dragon egg, but it did not hatch. If Yi Qinghan did not have the peach of immortality and the heavenly spirit saint stone, he would have been sucked dry by now. The dragon egg was like a bottomless pit. It had not absorbed so much divine power in so many years. At this moment it was happily sucking and desperately stealing. It did not care if Yi Qinghan had enough divine power in his body. When the second peach of immortality was bitten, Yi Qinghan's expression changed. Gulp! Yi Qinghan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stared intently at the dragon egg. Because he had dripped his blood on the egg, he could see that the little dragon inside the egg was opening its mouth to absorb energy, as if it was never full. He could also feel its joy and excitement. At this moment, Zhang Yingshi, Fan Yin, and the others were also nervous. Yi Qinghan could no longer control the storage ring. If he was sucked dry again, he could only let the dragon egg absorb his essence and life force. "Prepare the peach of immortality and lend it to him," Fan Yin reminded first. Whoosh! The son of battle and Zhang Yingshi did not hesitate. They each took out 2 peaches of immortality, one in their mouth and one in their hand. Bang! Zhang Yingshi was the strongest. He pressed one palm on Yi Qinghan's back and poured his divine power into his body. Time passed slowly, but after an hour, the divine power in Zhang Yingshi's body was completely drained. He could only chew on the peach of immortality to replenish his energy. Crack! Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared on the dragon egg. A dragon's aura rolled out and reverberated in the cave. Its bloodline was so noble that even the divine bird was frightened and fled into Yi Qinghan's blood and qi, not daring to emerge. The little dragon broke out of the egg and absorbed more and more energy at a faster and faster speed. The peach of immortality was quickly drained. Zhang Yingshi quickly put the peach in her hand into his mouth. Yi Qinghan was sweating profusely. His skin was dry and cracked. The energy Zhang Yingshi was providing was far less than what the little dragon was absorbing. If this continued, he would be finished. "Son of battle, you help him too. I'll be in charge of security." Fan Yin took out the string and stared at the cave entrance, afraid that they would be attacked. Whoosh! The son of battle also transferred all the energy in his body into Yi Qinghan's. After chewing on the peach of immortality, Yi Qinghan's body was finally filled with energy. The little dragon, which was originally the size of a small snake, quickly grew. It was as thick as an arm and about 1 meter long. It had 5 dragon claws and holy light pervaded the air. The powerful blood and chi surged, making the 4 experts feel pressured. 2 hours later, the little dragon finally opened its eyes and stopped absorbing energy. It looked at Yi Qinghan and opened its mouth to speak human language. Mother. Yi Qinghan sat on the ground, exhausted. He looked at the little dragon and raised its head. He was speechless and scolded softly, I'm your father. Not your mother. Mother, don't be angry. I was too hungry just now. I'm full now. The little dragon was like a child who had done something wrong. It lowered its head and rubbed Yi Qinghan's chest. Yi Qinghan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He explained helplessly, I'm male. I'm really your father. The little dragon raised its head and asked curiously, then who's my mother? Yi Qinghan slapped his head and pointed at Fanning and Zhang Yingshi. He smiled bitterly and said, look at the 2 of them. Just pick one. Zhang Yingshi and Fanning were speechless. The little dragon grew very quickly. Some dragon scales actually grew on its body. Its dragon eyes were terrifying. It stared at Fanning and Zhang Yingshi with its big eyes, and they actually involuntarily took a few steps back. Mothers. My father is so valiant. The little divine dragon's immature voice sounded so strange. Fuck. You want to help your father pick up girls at such a young age? Birds of a feather flock together. Fanning scolded speechlessly. Yi Qinghan smiled. He waved his hand and kept the little dragon into his body. He climbed out of the cave and activated the rich spiritual energy in the air to recover his divine power. Light flowed, and his cultivation level actually began to loosen. He was about to break through to the upper level. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's doubts about the mysteries of the secret technique in the past suddenly became clear. At this moment, the immortal technique in his sea of consciousness also loosened. It automatically flipped to a page. Its mysteries soared to the heavens. One finger imprint after another rapidly evolved in his sea of consciousness. Each finger imprint contained the power to destroy the heavens and annihilate the saints. Pooh! Yi Qinghan only took a glance before his entire body sank into darkness. His face turned pale, and he fell to the ground with a loud bang. The child of war and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Yi Qinghan to come at this time. What's going on? Little Yi, don't scare me. Fanning hurriedly helped Yi Qinghan up. She realized that his soul was about to shatter. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.